Good morning, traders. What's going on out there? How we doing on this beautiful, well, dare I say beautiful FOMC day, of course. It's Fed day. Doesn't matter what happens today, but I'll tell you one thing, whether we get 25 basis points or 50 basis points, the markets will be moving. And they'll be moving especially towards after 2 p.m., right? There's one thing that's for certain before 2 p.m., there's going to be some stock movement, but it's going to be small bets, right? And that's the way I'm looking at it too, right? I got to be small today. Can't try to overextend myself, just trying to make some more profits for the week. But overall, can't be putting up too much risk on a day like today. Got to see if we get some kind of trend, actual movement in one direction. Yesterday, we did get a little bit of a decline, but in the pre-market, we were rising all the way up, right? So essentially, we just pulled back to the prior day's highs. So we're going to take a look to see what happens here now. Do we get some downside action? Is it 25? Is it 50? Well, I'll tell you one thing. Let's take a look at the playbook today and see what we can come up with. See what we can trade maybe throughout this move. All right, team, let's go ahead. Let's get to the action. Today's playbook. The first one up, of course, we're just going to continue to try to just rinse and repeat on the VIXIE. Of course, made an awesome trade yesterday, guys. We'll talk a little bit about it. But there it is, guys. I've been talking about trying to step it up in sizing, and that's exactly what I did yesterday on this trade. So we'll see what happens here as we start to make the move. Looks like I'm having some issues there with my screen. Let me go ahead and get that screen back up here for you guys. That's going to take 2 seconds here. No worries. Just give me a second here, guys. There it is. Boom. All right, there we go. Got it back for you guys. All right, we'll take a look at the action. Of course, the VIXIE making a nice little pop yesterday. Guys, it wasn't a bad sell on me either. I actually sold out at like 51. I gave it the chance to go to the 1270s with the full 4,000 shares. It was so hard to hold it, guys. I will tell you guys that. But now I'm looking to see if we go back through that level. It was all about an hourly level and kind of wicks coming down towards that 1210s yesterday. Gave that nice pop through the 1230s. Now we need to see if we recover 1250 in the intraday. Right? If we recover 1250 in the intraday, it's going to be looking good for the Fed report. Now, what happens today? Do we get a spike in the VIXIE? All things to think about, right? And at some point, I want to take a big bet on this, probably in the swing account, not the day trade account, because the truth is in the day trade, things can move all around. I will be looking at potentially opening up a swing on the VIXIE, but it's a hard bet, right, guys? The truth is in the swing account, I'm just going back and forth. I'm in like kind of survivor mode with the swing account. We'll talk a little bit more about it during the show. But yeah, VIXIE's on the radar today, and we'll see if we can make a trade. Big levels to watch, 1240 recovery towards 1250. If we can get a quick spike out the gates, that's something that I might be trading on the quick trade now. I don't think I'll be going 4,000 shares deep in VIXIE today, but that doesn't mean that I can't make, a couple $100 and with a couple thousand shares. We'll see what happens there. Getting to the next one, as we take a look at AG, silver. I'll be watching to see what happens there on the downside, right? I think it's definitely important, right? We'll see what happens on that action, but I want to see what moves we can get, right, in AG. And I'm going to be watching to see if silver can come down today. Was taking a close watch on this yesterday, and we moved up and down in the range, right? Yesterday, you can see it right here on the bottom end of the range to the top end of the range. The bottom end of the range right now in the pre-market. And we've made a couple of attempts to go towards the 625 and have failed. I'll be watching today to see if we fail one more time towards that 625. And then we could come right back down through the 6. I'm looking at 570s and potentially 550s as pullback opportunities. On the short side, I'd go after it to that level and then maybe even eventually long at that level. So we'll see what happens here in AG. All right, guys, now to bring you guys over to the Sunrise Report, we'll take a look at different action out there, guys. Definitely smash it up. excited to go ahead and talk about the other action out there. But let's see what we can come up with in the Sunrise report. There's a couple of headlines out there. And at the end of the day, today's all about the FOMC. So that's really what we need to talk about. So let's get back to that action. Let's take a look at what's going on in the market right now and what's on today's Sunrise report. All right, team, let's get it started here as the FOMC, and we begin the good old-fashioned, it's a Fed day, folks, as all eyes are on the FOMC as we wait for the next big move. So, of course, will the Fed stick with the traditional 25 basis point cut or go bold with a 50-point reduction? Opinions are split, so we'll be looking to see what happens in this high-stakes decision, right? What will be going on here is definitely something to think about. So will the Fed stick with the 25 basis or the 50-point reduction? Let me know in the chat. What are you guys thinking out there? All right, as traders are leaning towards a bigger cut with the CME Fed Group Fed Watch tool showing a now 65% chance of a 50-point move, while 35% are expecting a smaller, safer 25-point cut. Which side are you guys on? And in other news, we'll go over now to talking a little bit about BlackRock and Microsoft as they're making waves in AI, teaming up here. They teamed up to raise $100 billion for AI infrastructure, with initial goal of $30 billion. The partnership is part of a new global AI infrastructure investment effort, and both companies are already seeing a little bit of a small bump. Could this be the future of AI development? All things to think about here with Microsoft and BlackRock, but it just goes to show you more and more how they're pushing into AI, trying to create revenue drivers. That's really what I think it is that they don't know what else do we push into. What do we push into? Well, it's cloud and data, it's AI, and we'll use that to keep pushing forward and making the growth outlook look better. And I think this is really what we're seeing out there. It's just the technology companies looking for growth. Meanwhile, let's shift over now to Novartis, as Novartis is playing it cool, as the CEO says they won't be jumping into the weight loss drug frenzy like some of their competitors. Instead, Novartis is keeping its focus on other areas. Bold move or a missed opportunity. Only thing will tell us, time will tell, guys. What do you guys think here? Should Novartis be jumping into the weight loss drug frenzy, or should they go focus on other products that could really give them the lift? Last one we'll talk about is, of course, as we talk about the merger out there. And what's going on with my headline there? Definitely shouldn't have had Restoration Hardware on the bottom of that, but it's all good. I'll just let you guys know exactly what's going on here in the airlines, as Alaska Airlines is definitely seeing the action here. Hawaii Airlines is now cleared as the government reviews. So the Justice Department and the DOT signed off on the deal with conditions to protect loyalty miles and maintain royal services. So the combined fleet will be over 360 planes flying to more than 130 destinations. The skies are about to be a bit more crowded, and we'll be watching to see if the stock can continue to lift. Hawaii Airlines has been lifting as of late, but that's enough for that today, guys, on the Sunrise Report. That's going to wrap it for today. The big question is still on everyone's mind. Will the Fed get a 50 basis point cut or a 25 basis point cut, or maybe not cut at all? That would be the real interesting turn of events. Let's get to today's live trading action. And I got to tell you guys all about the trade yesterday. Of course, you guys saw it open, right? I didn't close it here, but you guys clearly saw it open, was able to make a nice trade and close it towards around like 1 or 2 p.m. So it wasn't like I was going to be able to stick around for that. But hey, that's why it's so important to have your mobile app. And do you have your Trade the Pool mobile app? If you don't, go download it right now. And let's get to today's live action.
Powell wants 200, baby.
You ready to get back to the trading action?
You aim, you shoot, and make money.
It's going to be a great day. You guys know where you're at. What's going on, traders? How we doing out there? Who's ready to get things started today? And it's looking like my internet's not being the most stable. So if you guys hear me chopping up, let me know out there. Let's get to the action. Let's take a look at the market today. What are we going for? And why don't you trade the UVXY if it's a day trade? Great, Scott. Great question. It's actually a good one here. I've actually thought about this one too. So we'll talk a little bit about it as I tell you guys a little bit about my trade yesterday, right? So I was able to get this one here, and it was an average close to 1221, selling it up there towards the 1250. Really nice 30 cents on 4,000 shares. Stepping up to the plate, guys. I've been trying to get that first $1,000 winner, and it was an $1,100 winner yesterday. So got to give myself a pat on the back. Got to keep going. Got to keep sizing up, because sizing up is never easy. So if anyone tells you that that's the truth, well, they're lying to you guys, and I'm not going to lie to you guys. It's been tough, and I've been feeling the pressure. But how do you get around that? Is you start to go back to what got you here in the first place. Rely on the habits that get you into the green, right? Staying small, getting bigger when that move actually comes. And then once the stock got through my level, let's say towards the 1230s, especially, once I started getting through that 1230s, I left a break-even stop out. So at that point, I wasn't going to lose on the trade, and I just gave myself the potential for bigger returns. And as the stock kept climbing 10 cents higher, I brought the stop up with it, essentially a trailing stop, but not a real trailing stop, one manually that I was controlling. But that trailing stop is what kept the green going higher. And at one point, I could run and take $600, but I said, you know what? Let's just keep the stop riding higher. So I secured $400 on the stop. And I said, well, even if I don't get, let's say, the $1,000 today, if I only get 400, would I be upset? No, I wouldn't. So let's just keep it riding higher. Then it went there towards 700, 800, 900. And then I raised it up to 600, secured 600, and just kept going up and trailing it. That's how I was able to follow the momentum and almost take the top, right? I didn't get 1260s. I got 1251 because I was looking at the potential move for 1270s. At that point, I would have locked up what? I would have locked up the 1260, right? And that's the same way that I've been going about it once I'm in the green and trying to make big moves. But your question here about the UVXY, of course, the UVXY is going to be your 2 times, or you can go to your leverage type of trades, right? There's the leverage types of trades that you can go after, right? And I think that that's the important thing. But what I like here on the VIXIE, right, is the separation and the amount of money that it's going in. So there's 2 different options, right? There's different options really at the end of the day. And you can take a look here at the VIX or the VIXIE, or maybe even the 2-time leverage ones. The UVIX, I know that one, UVIX, right? But the truth is, it's all about the range that you're looking for. And I think that this one has more to do with the average true range. So on the average true range on the daily, this thing moves about 93 cents, right? It doesn't move an insane amount, but it doesn't like kind of only move 10 cents in the day, right? And that's one thing that I'd be thinking about, right? Because you could do like the UVIX, but the UVIX moves what? Only about 76, maybe a lot of the times like 50 cents, right? And so I'm trying to find names that have a potential of getting a nice little quick pop about 50, 60 cents, but don't have so much downside risk. So, and when I look at the UVXY, right, I can see this one is going to be moving now closer towards what? $2.91, right? And so this tells me that this moves more, but also increases the risk when I'm trying to get big, right? And the spread. The spread is going to be 4 cents on this one, maybe in the intraday, maybe to 2 cents or 3 cents, versus the VIXIE, where I can get a 1 cent spread, maybe 2 cent spread. And so the spread also helps me. Great, Scott. It's really what you want to try to trade. But what I'm trying to do is go bigger in sizing and go for that smaller chunk in the sense there. Now, this is the best way to go about it? There's really no great answer for that. It's more about what works for you. The VIXIE has been working for me. If the UVXY works better for you and it gives you an ability to get in this and read it a little bit better on the 15-minute or the 5-minute or even the 1-minute pattern, well, hey, power to you, right? But the thing is with this one, you're going to go from like 24.60 yesterday easily up to 25s. So you got to be able to handle right there about 50, 60 cents. And I'll tell you one thing, I'm not handling 50, 60 cents with 4,000 shares. I'll just be as honest as I can be, right? 4,000 shares, I can handle maybe 10, 15, 20 cents, right? Not going to be able to handle that 50 cents. So that's the adjustment there, Greg Scott. I hope you are able to learn from that and to decide which one you would go after, right? What's better for your risk profile? And that's really what we're talking about here. Vic, what's going on? How we doing out there? And you guys out there, anybody, say hello. If you're new to this show, what's going on, traders? What do we got to trade today? Excited to get to the action. All right, let's go taking a look. Let's see what else is moving. Of course, this PRTG was the biggest mover of the morning. This thing has started to climb back. It got to 1376. I'm glad I didn't touch this thing. I was looking at it both ways. I was looking at a potential short off of 12s, which did go down to 10, but then the stock came back there towards 13 and 14. So I'm just looking to see if this can start to hold VWAP and really wants to make an attempt back towards the upside. It's made 1, 2, 3 attempts. I'd look for one more attempt to the downside and then see if it starts ramping back towards 13. But right now, I'm just taking a quick peek at this. The penny names haven't been hot. Guys, they have not been hot as of late, especially the last week or so. Yeah, you'll get pops and runs, but they're not continuous moves, and they're not these big moves in the intraday where we're getting, let's say, 2, 3 holds up on the upside and continuing to move. That's not what we're seeing out there. So we'll see what happens with this Lunar also. That's another one, an aerospace and defense stock. I really didn't trade this one really based off of the pattern. That's not a pattern to me there on the 15-minute. That doesn't seem like anything I can really go off of. So that's the problem here, is that there's just no edge in the pattern. So we'll see what happens with the penny names, if they can make a move. Really, as of late, penny stocks have not been where it's at. And you got to know that, right? As a trader, one thing you got to know is when the penny stocks are working, like the small cap names are working, and when they're not. Because if you can do that, you can step out of that game for a little bit and then come back when you start to see it working. When you start seeing like a day 1, day 2 type of move, where the stock goes, let's say, from 3 to 6. And then the next day it goes down to 5, but then goes up to 9. Those are the types of moves that I want to be seeing to tell me that the small caps are coming back. Right now, it doesn't seem like it is. And a big part of this could be the interest rate cut that's coming up. And we just got to watch to see how things react afterwards, not right now. So penny or small caps don't look like that's what's going to be traded today. Of course, you never know with that PRTG if it just starts going through the roof. And that one has the potential, but nothing that I'm going to be actually leaning on. I'll be waiting for it to tell me that it wants to make a big run. All right, traders, let's take a look out there and see what else you guys are taking a look at for trades. If you guys got a trade to talk about, go ahead and throw it up. We can talk about FOMC, right? We can talk about the CME Fed Watch tool. That's what I'm going to go ahead and bring up here, because I think that's what you got to kind of be keeping an eye out for, right? We've talked about this already, guys. But let's go ahead. Let's take a look at this as we take a look, of course, at the CME Fed Watch tool. And we see the percentages of the rate cuts, right? 63% saying a 50 basis point cut. But what's the important thing here, right? Well, the important thing here is the change in the percentages. Just a week ago, it was 86% saying a 25 basis point cut. And today, that's down to 37%. So what happened, guys? Well, it just seems like things have been going all over the place, because a month ago it was 25% for a 50 basis point cut and now 63%. So who knows what's going to happen here? I think what you got to be thinking about is more about the table and the dot plot. So you see here the dot plot. This is the important thing, guys. So you can look at the chart or you can look at the table. It's really the same thing. It depends on what you want to see and how visually you want to see it, right? So what are you guys taking a look at here is that the change in what they expect, right? How fast do they expect things to go down? So the blue dots indicate a median projection. So you should be looking at the blue dots. You can still look at the other action, but I'd be watching that blue dot. And the blue dots tell me that, okay, well, 5.0 in 2024, but by mid 2025 would be at 4%. So that's what? That's about 150 basis points. So that could be 3 cuts of 50 basis points, right? Or it could be a little bit more. It could be in the 25s, and you can have plenty of cuts to do. I think that's what makes more sense, is having more ammo to cut to see how the cuts are going than just going and front running the 50 basis points. And that could also mean that the 50 basis points can mean that there's something broken, that the Fed sees something that we are not seeing. So all things to think about here. And I think that what you want to see is after 2 p.m., you see that this change, because this is going to get put out, right? The new dot plot will get put out with the press release. And that's going to be a major focus. So if you're wondering what the algos will be focusing on, it'll be this, not necessarily the 25 or the 50. I know that some people are going to be saying that that's the focus, but it's not. That's the algorithm focus on the first reaction, where let's say like the minute traders and the second traders are going to be trying to trade. But the real longer term outlook of where the market's going to be going is a lot of this. All right, guys. And of course, you guys can definitely take a look at it, guys. You can take a look at probabilities. You can take a look here to see when they're expecting to get towards certain kind of rates, right? And all things to think about. Really, right now, I think they're getting they're doing a 50 basis point cut here, 63%, and in 52% saying that it'd be down to 450 and 475 by the November meeting. And December 18th, my birthday. Don't forget that, guys. Send me a good gift. We'll see what happens there as we start to take a look at potentially down to 400. So if we're down to 400, that's 125 basis points already. I don't think that's going to happen, team. I think the market is definitely kind of overblowing proportions on both sides of this. So just be careful out there, traders, and we'll kind of watch this as it comes out, right? Take a look at that, right? Another thing is this updates usually about 6 minutes after the number comes out. So it does take a little bit to update, and that's on the CME Fed Watch tool. So definitely check it out, guys. All right, let's take a look out there. It seems like we got some more traders coming in. What are you taking a look at this morning? What are you guys trading? Let me know. Let's get it running. You guys know where you're at. It's Trade the Pool. Let's go, team.
Lot more to take a look at here. We'll be watching the market, see what we can trade. Yesterday had a great day. Not bad, guys. Up over $1,000
on the week. Monday was pretty much a neutral day, so ready to push it. See if we can get towards the 2K goal this week, right? Start to push it. We're trying to get this eval. We'll see what happens. Q's going right back up here, guys. So Q's right back up to 474.45. Just goes to show you guys, this is going to be moving all over the place today. Really, I'm at the point, you got to erase all these lines. Let's do a new assessment of the overall market or the Qs. You can take a look at the SPY also. We're looking to see what happens with this trend line. We've approached this trend line multiple times, and we could make a rip back towards the upside here, towards, let's say, maybe 480s on the Qs. So keep your eyes on that. AMD will be one to watch. NVIDIA, Apple went kind of green yesterday, but it was looking like it wanted to break down, and it never broke down in this hourly. So it gave attempts to go to the 215 multiple times. If you don't go to 215 today, you could close all the way right back into that gap. A gap down from 222.50s. So there's no reason to tell me that it can't go and then maybe make that $5 move and go back up towards that 222. So this is definitely something to watch. We'll see what happens there on Apple, if it can start making its way back towards 222s. Of course, this has to do with the iPhone situation, but we'll see what happens. Apple's definitely been falling off as of late, and now it's going to be a big thing. Will tech come back? Will we start to see these names start to go back towards upside trend lines? And that could be a move back towards 226 on Apple. We'll keep an eye out there. Microsoft yesterday was some good news. Once that started to go red yesterday, I really came after things, and then I started to see it start to climb back. So I just want to tell me that, yeah, you got to be careful there. We could get another up move here in Microsoft today through the 440s, starting to go back towards yesterday's high, 441.85. So I'll be watching to see if Microsoft can get a lift out the gates. Also taking a look at Tesla. Tesla's at 229, guys. I've been talking about, will we get into the gap zone? We've touched the gap zone already. We touched it yesterday. We got up there to 234.57. Now, what will happen? I think this will depend a lot on the overall market action, but maybe we just get a rip out before we get the interest rate decision, and the stock is already up there towards, let's say, 236, 240s, and then that give it the potential to maybe just come back down to 231s if we get some downside action. But definitely one that I want to keep an eye out for. Tesla, you guys know how I feel about it. She's a dragon, and she's hard to be tamed, that's for sure. But all right, guys, definitely smash the like. I got a new trader joining us today. Going to be excited to bring on Juicy Trades. Yes, guys, smash the like out there. Going to bring on Steve in just a second. But definitely, guys, out there, who has a trade that you're watching out the gates? I want to hear it. And who's on the swing trading life in the evals? I want to hear how that's going for you guys. I know I've been in the battle and thinking about taking a shot today, right? One of the things is whenever we're dealing with these FOMC days, the market's going to move, right? At some point, it's going to make a jump. So that's why I'm looking at maybe potentially trading like the VIXIE or some other trades to get to the up, get to some nice potential action, right? This would be a higher risk trade as you're pretty much taking a flip of the coin, right? Now that's the harder part, right? Well, we'll see what happens with this if I'm able to take a nice shot. Comment, thumbs up. We'll see what happens out there. Definitely smash it, guys. Let's go ahead. Let's bring on Steve. Let's see what he's looking at. Juicy Trades. What's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going, Mitch?
It's good to have you back, man. Ready to get back to the market. Take a look at, see what we can come up with today. Of course, had a really good day yesterday trading the VIXIE, and it was seeming like pretty much it was kind of like a down range type of day yesterday. So we started the day, right? We were kind of rising, and then as we got back towards the open, we did fall back down, but pretty much towards like the range from Monday, right? And so we just kind of bounced off of Monday's range, coming back up. We could be right back up to Tuesday's highs in just a few moments. We'll see what happens there in the Qs. How are you seeing the overall market action?
I'm seeing a lot of the same things you are, I think. For me personally, I'm pretty sidelined today. I just kind of shut things down yesterday because for me, the straight shot clean trade was to the all-time highs there. And as we could see yesterday, it got a little shaky up there. So I'm anticipating chaos. I mean, let's be real, FOMC, and it's a big one. So I think everybody's going to get chopped out. I think it's a good time to play safe. But I think if you're brave, I think fortune favors the brave. I think there will be some good opportunities today.
Yeah, there will be opportunities today. I think the way that I'm looking at it is just want to make like a quick trade, maybe get out of the day and then get away from all the FOMC drama. But that's the truth, right? Because the real thing is that I've seen it plenty of times, and we've seen it on CPI days, right? Where that first reaction is a fake out. And so it's very hard to trade it, right? Let's just be honest, right? Maybe you set random limits to see if you get hit on like quick like moves. And I have seen traders make trades like that and make really good trades, but it's so hard to establish where do I put the level, right? Where do I put my limits in, right? Yeah, you can use support, but that's really not going to work out, guys. I wish it was that easy, right? I could just look at it like a daily support and be like, yeah, I'm going to put it right here. The truth is, we don't know what's going to happen on that first reaction, especially. After, when it starts to decipher, that's when maybe you can go ahead and try to make a play. But then you also got those moments where you get these quick spikes and then a quick reversal all the way back in the range, right? And so it's not just play the dip and seeing it's going right back in that direction. That's where I think it gets very difficult on days like today, where you just got to ask yourself, is it worth the money? And not the money on the reward side, the money on the risk side. That's what a lot of traders will ask themselves. They'll be like, oh yeah, but there's potential to make thousands. But there's also potential to lose thousands, team. And that's more of a concern to me than the reward side, right? Because on market days where I can just not have things go against me because Powell says, Powell this market. Well, the truth is that at the end of the day, I want to be in trades that don't have that much risk, right? That's why I've been doing good in the VIXIE trade. And I talked about it earlier of why I'd like to trade the VIXIE over the UVXY, because the UVXY is going to move $2-3 in a day when the VIXIE is maybe going to move about $1, right? So more management in the range action. And sometimes this could bring you more return than those stocks that are going 1,000%, right? Because they're also coming down 50 or 500%, right? And so it's going to be harder to play those. There's more volatility. Less volatility sometimes gives you ability to increase size. In this case, we have a massive volatility day, so it should be the opposite. Massive volatility. The size should go minimal, mini size, right? So if I wanted to trade the FOMC event, I would maybe trade it. But what would I trade it with? Maybe 20 shares. It sounds dumb, but that's the truth, right? Because you're going to get dollar moves, right? It could be 10 points on the SPY. 10 points on the SPY, 20 shares is not too bad, right? I mean, that's at least money and manageable. What I don't want to see is someone throwing out there the 10,000 share entry and then expecting themselves to make $40,000, $60,000 on that trade. I know a lot of options traders also get run over during this time, right? They're thinking, oh, I got to play calls. I got to play puts. So they go after all these, and what do? They expire worthless. Let's be honest. You just get both sides of the move where you'll get a wick down, you'll get a wick up, and all of a sudden the premium just starts coming down on you. And the next thing you know, the theta decay is destroying that position. And you could even pick the right area. You could have picked up and the market went up and you make very little money. And you're looking at yourself like, what the hell, man?
Mitch,
I picked the right direction.
Here. you're preaching, and I'm listening. No doubt.
You know it, because we've all been there, right? If you're a trader, you've actually been in this game for multiple years. You probably tried this, right? You've ran into this situation. The truth is, you don't have the edge over majority out there, and I think that's sometimes what traders think. They think that, oh, but no, I have the right idea right here, right? The call option's the right idea. The truth is we're playing hero. And we all know the heroes out there. They turn into zeros really quickly. And I know that sounds dumb, but the truth is they definitely do, man. I can tell you guys right now, like 5 or 6 people that I've seen on Twitters, quickly, they were heroes. They were like, oh, we play whatever it might be, Celsius to the upside, and I made 300, 400%. But they become zeros really quickly, man.
Oh, and Mitch, I got to say Celsius. That's a personal attack right there. That one took my lunch money.
hey, it's how it is, man. I'll tell you one thing. It takes my lunch money today, but it's more the energy drink than the stock. So
there you go. What's your preferred flavor there?
Ooh, that's a good one. I like all the guava ones are usually pretty good. The kiwi guava, anything with the guavas, the strawberry guavas. Right now I have all those cosmic ones. I have like the kind of the variety pack. I get them by 20s now. That's how bad it's gotten, right?
Are you on the Amazon hookup? Is that your dealer yet? Because
I get them from either BJ's or Costco, something like that, wholesale, where I can get them like pretty much like maybe like $1 something a can. If it's $1 something a can, I can handle it. Now, when I go to the kind of the gas stations, that's when I realize how these guys make their money, right?
Oh yeah.
That's when they're
What's it,
making their money. That's when they're making their 70% margins,
Wow,
80%
really?
margins. Yeah,
I don't make it to the gas station much, so I couldn't even price that. I feel like Lucille Bluth in Arrested Development. Like, how much does a banana cost?
yeah,
But I guess that's where they make their money.
that's how they make their money. That's the same way they make their money. One of the things is I've done a lot of crazy things and a lot of crazy jobs in my time. And one of them was I was a manager of 7-Elevens and one of the biggest revenue 7-Eleven in Colorado, and actually one of the biggest ones in the United States. And that taught me a lot on margins and how single items are just so attacked for margins, right?
Totally.
And that's what it's all about here. And that's how these energy drinks make their money, right? There's 60% margins on Monster. There's probably 70 to 80% on Celsius. And that's why it's such a favored one. When Monster started to come down in their margins was what they started to deal with Pepsi. And so a lot of these companies start to go to the distribution routes and they lose margins because of that. But that's just because they don't want to have their own workers bringing their product to the store, right? So they go and they hire like Pepsi or they hire like Coca-Cola and they say, bring my stuff to the store and we'll keep it in your warehouse. And then that's when you lose a little bit of the margins, right? But that's another conversation.
Yeah, not to get too in the weeds, it really does go to show how much distribution affects things. I just remember how much Pepsi thrived during COVID, and I think actually recently they screwed Celsius on that same thing you were just talking about. So all for full circle there.
No, and all things to understand, right? Especially if you're going to understand a space like the beverage, the soft drink space, you need to know these stuff, right? And I think that that's the stuff that hey. It takes years to kind of learn the advantages in the softwares and soft drink space, or maybe you're looking at wineries or you're looking at packaged foods. There's so many industries in the market, but that's what I also love about things like this, right? Because that actually plays into things. And on the long run, I think Celsius will be back, but when do we get it? That's the harder question, right?
Well, I'm glad you brought it up. It's actually on my focus list today.
Nice.
There were a few things I was looking at that's really kind of standing out to me. The first off is on my list because I saw a good amount of bullish flow for the 36 strike weeklies. So pretty short dated, usually will indicate a bottom in a chart like this when you're starting to see that flow coming in. They could be selling those. It did pop pretty close to 36, but you usually don't see them start to sell aggressive weeklies like that until it goes in the money. So I'm keeping it on my radar. There is a few levels. Let's see, 36.17. I have 36.50, 56. So there's some good targets for if we get a little dip out of the gate, maybe to 34 handle. I'd be looking to maybe scoop some of those weeklies for a quick trade there.
Yeah, it looks interesting there for a close at 36. And definitely, I could see that getting a nice little raise. And it'll be depending on the market overall, but I think that we can get this nice little push there and overall start to see a opening action for defensive sector. Of course, I've talked about it with XLP, your consumer staples, but going to take a look to see if we get a nice little pop out the gates here. And it's going to be interesting, right? I think you're going to start to see the separation happen later on today, growth and value, right? If it goes to value, we'll take a look to see if Celsius continues to get the lift. It's still a growth stock in a value sector, right? So you got to think about that, right? It's kind of a little bit of a mixed noise with this one, but you can watch Pepsi or Coke to kind of give you a little bit of what the heads up, right? Like, you know what I mean? So focus on one of these, the major boys, to tell you, hey, which way is it going? And take a look at the action as of late, right? Pepsi, since let's say July, has been on a nice rise, right? If you look at Coke, a little bit even better of a rise, right? Look at that.
Crazy move.
Yeah, wow. Nice move for Coke, right? I mean, you don't see this often. And the fun part about trading something like this, and I talk about it, and we're talking about it repeatedly today, so we might as well just stay on it. It's a stock that moves, but not an insane amount. So it gives you the ability to risk more. And you know that it's not going to go to zero anytime soon, right? Coke is not just disappearing one day. Poof, it's gone, right? So this is one to kind of look at, guys. We'll see what happens here. And it's a dividend player, has been making a big breakout to the upside. So now you can maybe get pullbacks, right? So we'll see what happens there in Coke. and defensive area overall. It has been strong as of late. The value names have been lifting. We'll see if we get some turnaround today.
Hey, while we're talking sectors here, I'm curious about your take on, are you starting to look for the kind of classic post-rate cut short opportunities in like financials and utilities? Yeah,
exactly that. Exactly that. And XLF is one that I've talked about multiple times, was on the playbook yesterday. And I've actually taken a couple of trades on the downside. I've done really well on those with Goldman Sucks. But
love it. No,
I'll be watching that trade right there, right? Because the way that it works is just math, right? And just simple, right? If interest rates come down, banks make less, right? That's just as simple as that, right? Yeah, they can do different deals and things like that to move things around, but just to keep it simple, interest comes down, and now keeping things in the bank don't look as sexy, right? That's what the truth. For a while there, the Tina trade was kind of dead, and people wanted to get out of the stock market itself. They didn't even want to be in the stock market. They were like, why try to make 8% when I could make potentially 0 or lose money when I have a guaranteed 5%, right? And so risk-free, right? I mean, if anybody takes finance class or ever took a finance class, you know, risk-free is what you first try to grab, and then you can worry about trying to get extra from there. Now that starts to go down. It's no longer the same thing. You're no longer going to see like Robinhood Interactive Brokers be fighting for the 5.5, 5.6 though. I got you. Come through.
Yeah, I remember the wars.
So that's going to go away. And so slowly but surely, even like, let's say your banks will go from probably right now, you're probably seeing a 3 or 4% in the savings accounts. You're going to see those start to go back closer towards what it was before the pandemic, right? And before this interest rate cycle. And you'll see it go back down towards 1 or 2%. That starts taking the money away from the banks also. So then you got to be worried about what? Deposits and being pulled out of the banks. And then what happens there? The same concern that happened earlier, right? Mm-hmm. With the banks, right? When the people started taking the money out of the banks, that's going to come back, right? And so that's why I also don't like these banks. And then there's bank exposure to what's coming up in 2025, which is a whole bunch of debt coming in. What space? In the residential construction, in also office real estate. And so the really concerning one is the office real estate, but that's going into more of your like kind of smaller bank outlook. But definitely XLF to the downside, I can see. XLU was one that I rode up, but didn't ride it up as far as I should have, maybe. This thing's been riding higher. I still remember when I first came on Trade the Pool, guys, that was back down here in kind of the early May, July days. And boy, oh boy, I was looking at this trend in the XLU, and it was this long trend line that we went and we broke up, and then we started making this huge rise, 22% actually, to be looking back. And that just goes to tell me that sometimes the non-sexy trade is the trade to ride up, especially like on like a swing trade, like this Duke, Southern Company. You can take a look at all these, right? They just made such a nice move, even Dominion Energy, and even a smaller one like Excel Energy, right? And just sometimes not the sexiest moves, but can make a nice push. A lot of this is, of course, as you start to see the interest rates come down, these companies start looking a little bit better. But then you start to run into the opposite outlook, which is now that the bond situation, right? Because now the bonds aren't going to be looking as sexy, and then these start to come down also. So I think that you'll start to see a turn. What you can look at on the XLU is I'm just waiting for the day that it breaks the 9 EMA. Give me a close below the 9 EMA, and then I'll start to short the XLU. So you can see here, what have we gotten recently? Wicks through the 9 EMA. Bunch of wicks. No closes below that. So I'll be watching for a close below that 9 as the simple sign that, yes, now you're starting to see the turn. And that's a good way of keeping myself on the sideline until the decline comes.
Yeah, because this thing could just keep going. Because you got
it could stay in the trend. It could stay in the trend.
Funny funny like positioning game too, where it's like, all right, we're all expecting rate cuts, we're all expecting the normal thing to happen, but when does it happen? You know?
Yeah.
Because this thing's it's a mountain.
Yeah,
I love how you mentioned
that's the same
90
thing.
May.
Yeah, that's the same thing for the financial one. Same thing.
Aren't those trades great where it just pops one moving average and you're like, I'm just gonna hold this until it breaks this, and then you're 20% up a month later? It's like, oh, trading's easy.
Those are my favorite. That's why I like swing trading, man. At the end of the day, because you can do that and you can go to sleep and not be so stressed out when you're 20%, 30% in the green. You know that you can maybe wake up and lose some of that, but it's not going probably away overnight. Right. And I think that's the important thing. Riding those waves and swing trading can really help you guys. I've seen positions that have blown my thinking in what I've made with small shares, 10, 20 shares. And this is what I say for all you traders out there that are trying to learn swing trading. Take it very slow. The smallest size ever, and just look at the percentage gains, right? And just focus on that for like maybe 6 months even. That's what I did for a long time. And I was like very small, trading live, swing trading. And a lot of that was just industry outlook, like thinking like this on the XLF, how can I go about it? And then I'll use my day trading skills to try to give me a better entry, right? That's all I'm trying to do. Use the day trading skills to give me better entries, then take the swing trade. And a lot of that is on hourly and daily levels, right? So that can give you a nice advantage to get that next step up, right? All right, seeing some comments in the chat. We'll catch up with that out there. Tim, what's going on, man? I've seen things that people wouldn't believe. Accounts on fire. I watch margin calls. Yeah. There's a lot of issues out there, right? And I think that one of the things that is just always think about that this is always going to be a side hustle until it becomes the main hustle, right, guys? Think about it that way so that you don't have to think about it in the way that it has to be your everything. I don't want anybody quitting their full-time job because they think that tomorrow they're going to become full-time traders. The truth is that you can become that, but let the results and the money tell you that you have to quit your job versus you want to quit your job. We all don't want to work. I mean, hey, let's just be honest, all right? I mean, if we all can sit back on the beach somewhere and just drink pina coladas and Coronas and just do that all day, yeah, I mean, who wouldn't say yes to that, right? That's where I get lost in like Elon and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't know why he doesn't just sit on a beach somewhere. But hey, that's his decision, right? We'll see what happens here, guys. XLF, can that keep going? Yes, it could keep going higher. So I'll be watching to see setups in the banks, right? The same way I look at Goldman Sachs. I'm like, okay, well, you came down to 441. Now you're back up here, back towards 480s, 500. When you get back to these levels, this is when I start to look for potential shorts. Not at the bottom at 460, because that doesn't give me any advantage, right? I want to short into those strengths and catch the elevator moves down and risk small, but looking for potential big rewards, right? So I'm looking at Goldman Sachs. I like Wells Fargo as that starts to come back. We like the Shitty Group. Sorry about that. But yeah, definitely. This is the one that I think in the long run, at some point, this thing is going to disappear.
Interesting. You're a City bear.
At some point, City will disappear, man. This thing will not be around in the long run. The way they run the bank, it's just, it'll blow your hat off, man. Literally, it'll blow your hat off. If you really look into the books, and the exposure that they set themselves up with is not small by any means. And people think that Bank of America is pretty safe. I'll tell you right now, at least in the commercial real estate space, they're one of the most exposed. And also in the kind of when you talk about your office real estate, they're also heavily exposed. So is Wells Fargo. I did a video on this a while back. And the big thing is it's 2025 that this comes into play, right? And so that's why I've been, I'm not going to be trying to, make a long-term call on these until the 2025 starts to come into play. And then we'll see if we run into this recession Then all of a sudden, bank concern. Then all of a sudden, China with Taiwan concern, right? But let all that happen, right? Let's not front run that. Let's let it happen. But when it happens, we already know that the situation was there. Then we can trade it. What most traders don't know is that they don't know that these banks have this exposure. Then the moment happens and they're deer in headlights. I would rather know what's on the books, wait to hear that the books are breaking, and then I can go place bets. We'll see what happens. That's why I think in the long run, yeah, we'll get some consolidation. Regional banks will come down. Bigger banks will survive. I would never bet against JP Morgan. And that's one thing that I'll tell you guys. Yeah, I'll bet against some banks, but I won't bet against JP Morgan because this is not going anywhere. JP Morgan falls, there's no more stock market, guys.
Right. They're by far the most safe in terms of exposure, right?
Yeah. And they also are not so exposed to the office real estate. And I think that that's something that was smart by their team, right? Their team chose not to do that. There's a reason why.
Yeah.
I think they could see clearly that we weren't going to always be in a low interest rate environment. And they saw that as a risk, right? They saw that the risk of higher interest rates could happen after the pandemic. That's what Bank of America and Wells Fargo never saw happening. How did they never see that happening? I don't know, man. I don't work there. But hey, just something to think about. We'll see what happens, guys. Let's keep going. Let's get ready for the market. Having some fun talking about different things today because truth is, market isn't going to be going too many places today. At least I feel like. So we're going to just be on the sideline, especially the first, let's say 30 minutes of the market. You might get these quick reactions out the gates, but you're essentially just trying to make maybe 10-minute trades, 5-minute trades. And yeah, you can go after that. But I'm looking for the bigger trade here. And SPY doing the same thing that it did yesterday, where it did the climb, pre-market climb. It could just come back to the bottom end of the range of the pre-market, right? And that's a move back down to 563. And then now we're just playing inside the range, right? Same thing that happened yesterday. And I could see that actually coming into play, right? So unless we wash out right out the gates to 562, or we get a rip towards 565 right out the gates, that's your move back towards yesterday's highs, 566. So that could be a play too. But I'm also not looking for this to go, let's say, 570. It's not going to happen, man. I don't expect it out the gates, all right? And unless someone knows what Jerome is doing later today, they're not going to be trying to make those bets. Because the whole thing that I showed on the CME Fed Watch tool, how it went from 17% saying 50 basis points to now saying 63%. So all over the table there. We'll find out how Jerome really feels, and the dot plot is really something to look at.
Mitch, I got you. I was talking to Powell. I was talking to Powell.
You got Powell? You got Powell on speed dial?
I'm in his ear. I got a phone. I got a line. So here's the deal. He's gonna walk out, check the tie. Everybody's saying, all right, if he says recession combined with 50 BPS, that's bearish. He needs to be dovish while he's talking 50 BPS. Even if he says the R word during 25%, we're still looking at bearishness. It doesn't matter. None of it matters. Check the tie. If it's a purple tie, we're going up. That's all that matters. I'm telling you, this is empirical. It's a hard science. Purple tie, send it. Back to
what
you.
color tie we betting? Tim says what tie? There should be a bet out there DraftKings right now. You're listening. I know you're listening. Go put the bet out there. Jerome Powell's tie. I could see that being out there on DraftKings. That's what the sports gambling needs to start getting into a little bit more. It needs to start getting into stock market gambling. Can you imagine those two worlds collide? Oh, good Lord. Good Lord. Vegas knows, man. Vegas knows. I'll tell you that much. I wish I had the plus or minus line on this one, because I'd be looking. CME needs to have event contracts on Jerome Powell's color. I actually know some people that work at the CME group, so I might actually hit them up.
Make it happen.
They'll laugh about that one for sure.
So a little more seriously, I do think that there's a pretty high potential for a major fake out here today. I'm looking for those top wicks to be swept. But then you got the bottom wick sitting right there too. If I zoom out a little bit, I think that there is potential for a pretty big pullback to like 554. But like you said, I don't think it happens today. I don't think it happens on the first shot. I'm looking for really, really juicy spots to short. Like if we pop the top of this wick from yesterday and just we see big volume rejecting up somewhere around there. Maybe it goes up to 570. I don't think so, though. I think that's a bit much. But, you know, I'm expecting a big move to get reversed pretty hard. I would love to see a move up that I could short. If we do go down, I'm probably waiting for end of day or even tomorrow to settle. Usually how I like to play these FOMC days is I wait for the range to establish, like the daily range. And then I'll actually just wait for that range to break to really pick directionality to you know, inform my my swing trading for the next week or so.
Yeah, the way I see things is I see the 25 basis points a given. I don't know why they would do 50 basis points unless they really do know something that we don't know. And the way that Jerome Powell has stated in the past, he's clearly going to say what? He's data dependent, so he can't go 50 basis points. So if you were to do 50 basis points, the number one question that would be asked by these journalists, and the journalists know, they would ask them and they'd be like, but you're data dependent. What does the data say that it says to go 50 basis points? And then the data right now is not saying recession. It is saying that we're seeing a small uptick in the unemployment rate. And that's what he will mention. He will say that there is 25 basis points, but that we're watching the unemployment to see if it starts to spike, to see if we need to go ahead and increase the rate of rate cuts. And then he's going to tell you, but here's the bullish side, but this is just one rate cut of many down the line. And so there's your bullish, bearish flip back and forth, right? That's exactly what he's going to give you. He's going to give you that this is the start of a long rate cut cycle. So we're not expecting to go back into raising rates, right? So then that gives you what? The roadmap forward. That's what's more important, team. So you could get first action, downside move, and then once he tells you the roadmap, you can get upside move. That's what I think we get today. The roadmap says upside. The action event says downside. That's the way I see it. Apple, first move out the gates, guys, to the upside. This is the one stock that I feel could get a nice little move today, right? Because it got a gap down yesterday. Well, not that yesterday, the day prior, right? Because of the iPhone mention, gap down. So gap fill type of day, right? So there you guys see it already. Yesterday, what was it trying to do? It was trying to break the hourly on the downside. 1, 2, 3. You guys know my rule of 4, right? And so right there on this, in the pre-market, you got 1, 2, 3. In the pre-market, you get this attempt down at 459, reversal off of that. Now 217 already rising. Apple now to 218. I can see up towards like 222s in play in the first hour of the day. We'll see what happens there in Apple. Nice little spike out the gates here. Now could look for a pullback into prior resistance, right? So maybe a pullback coming back towards 217s or 217.50s here. Doesn't look too bad there in Apple. I'll also be watching PRTG to see what happens in that today. Tesla could make the move, right? We talked about it. I've talked about this multiple times. It could make a nice little push into the gap and then make a little bit of a pullback later when we get the FOMC. Right now, we're starting to push 230s. Can we get towards the 232s? Big level to watch there on Tesla. Already rising, already got a little bit of a pullback. Let's see if it takes the 232.
A few things I'm seeing here. So SPY is knifing through its hourly trigger, like an hourly kind of. I won't get too in the weeds about.
This is a great one right here, guys. You're completely right. SPY with a knife down, Q's down, but Apple up, Nvidia up.
Something's going on. Dell is
Microsoft
up big too.
is down at least. I was looking at the big boys. I'm like, yo, if they're all up, I'm betting upside here. Why is the market getting destroyed there, guys? Let's find out. What's dragging it? It has to be one of the bigger boys, something like that, dragging it on the downside. Let's see what's on the downside already out the gates. So seeing AVY, ADI, DHR. Let's see what's down on the market right out the gates. Healthcare dragging the market, guys. So healthcare and financial services going red. So XLK already going towards the red hand side. We'll see if that can recover. That's kind of an XLF. We'll see if that can recover here. Look at that XLF move down to 45.18 and strong there. So starting to take a look at maybe Goldman Sachs. It's down to 483.21. We'll look to see if we get some continued downside there. But I'm also looking at the VIXIE. Look at the VIXIE take off there, guys. It's 1244, now 1238. This is why I was thinking about, if there was any bet I was thinking about maybe taking a shot on, it was VIXIE long on a swing and then sees what happens by the time Jerome Powell comes out, right? Because by that time, it could be at 13 and 14. Give me about $1 in advantage in the green, right? And then I would be okay with holding towards the FOMC meeting. But it's a hard one, right? Because if I was really close to my level on the swing trade, I don't think I'd take it through that FOMC, right? I'd have to be deep into the green to feel a little bit more confident about holding it.
Yo, so I'm seeing a big relative strength in IWM here.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting in terms of going into this. I think that we're seeing front running of rate sensitive stuff, but I'm worried about possible high wick on the daily charts, especially on IWM here. It's trading up into a major trend line, and this looks like it could be trappy if a lot of people get or buy into this morning rally.
Yeah, I take a look at the names moving in there, right? So I go to the IWM and I just look at what's moving out the gates. APLT, I'll put that one on the scanner for you guys. Just broke through 7, got to 720s, could keep going. Nice little push out the gates there, and I kind of continue to watch that. What's leading the IWM that can push it, right? So like this MGRC, nice little move there. Definitely getting a nice little lift there. And so you got to continue to watch to see which one of these names can hold. But if we are going to get an IWM move, you can just look at try to trade some of these, or you can also trade the IWM. There's nothing wrong with trading the IWM. Did get a lift there off the 219 level. So if you're looking at what's the support, 219 stands out easily, right? And so I think that that's what you're looking at here. This looks good for a swing trade also on the day, right? The way that I think about this is that I could probably ride this up towards like 221. When Powell comes out, if I was at 219s and it was at 221, maybe I can hold because I have a $2 advantage. But that's some things to think about, right? Because you could still get stuffed off of that report. So
yeah, there are relative equal highs on IWM from pre-market and midday yesterday at just under 220. So there is a decent kind of confluence there where they could run it up right over there and then just bop it back down. So just something to keep your eye on.
All right, guys.
Very strong.
Just a position short on eBay. There you go, Izzy. eBay caught me yesterday, man. I did take a loss on the swing trade in that one. Now it's starting to come down, and that's usually when it comes down, right after I got stopped out. So we'll see what happens with the eBay, man. This thing has just been way too far. There's no reason for eBay to be up for the year, I think, 55%. I know AI is helping eBay, but come on, man. Is it helping it that much, really? Is it 50% better business? I don't know if it is, guys. But eBay's been working its way back to the top, man. I thought at some point eBay would go away, especially in a day and like where you have alternatives, right? You don't have to sell things on eBay nowadays. There's so many alternatives, whether it be Facebook Marketplace or or whatever it might be. I mean, there's definitely alternatives, but eBay's been doing really well.
Oh man, I was tracking the still trade. I took 30% yesterday thinking I was smart. The contract's cratered, and now, of course, here it goes hitting target. It's going to go for that 120 there.
All right.
Dell's got room. Keep an eye on that one for a swing trade.
Apple pushing, man. That's the one that I should have probably played off the 217s. Look at that nice little pullback there at 218, 26, 25s, now to 219s. Nice little VWAP hold right back up there to 219s. Could make it up there towards the 222s. Looking good as that's starting to bounce back. That was definitely one that should have been watched off the 217 level, and it's already getting that nice little push VIXIE's doing pretty well too, also back towards like 1250s. Little part of me thinking about taking a little bit of a scalp off of this, but the truth is that I don't know which way we're going right now because the Qs are coming down. Apple's going up, but NVIDIA just got the wash. Definitely some mixed noise right out the gates here, guys, as the Qs are coming down fast. SPY's coming down fast, but we still got some of these tech names going to the upside with Apple. Microsoft is getting the wipeout look there. I don't know what's going on in Microsoft, but if you're wondering what's dragging us pretty strong, Microsoft is a drag right now. It's just straight bars down right now. So taking a look at that action as we're seeing the down come into the market right now.
Sorry, I think I was having mic trouble. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I got you, my friend.
Okay, cool. Right on. Keep an eye on CLF. That's one that I think could be popping here. I was seeing good flow yesterday, and it's starting to push up here.
Yeah, this is moving off the sympathy from the Napon, right? Napon Steel and X.
Yeah, well, I think there's a few factors there. I think that's part of it. I think also just commodities in general are seeing a lot of upside, and mostly due to the weakened dollar. But also, I think there might be some rate sensitivity stuff going on there too. I'm seeing SPY starting to catch here, or at least try. IWM still bidding really nicely. It's weird, right? Because tech's just in the dumpster here.
Yeah, it is interesting. That's why I said I like. As much as I see this, like even like let's say like the VIXIE spike, and I'm like, man, I should have been long that. I should have grabbed my money and got it. 4,000 shares. Let's go again. Just telling myself, take it easy, Mitch. Take it easy today, kid. Because that's the truth. That's the truth. Is on a day like today, you're gonna see action that it makes you feel like you need to jump to the market. Remember, we don't need to jump into the pool every day, guys. The pool is cold today. It is freezing cold water. Do you want to jump into the pool or not? Yeah, some people are going to be like, well, I'm okay with cold water. Well, tell you the truth, guys, I don't like the cold water. I'm not jumping in it today, guys. I might put my toe in it. Might put my toe in it, and just pull it out really quickly. But other than that, I ain't jumping in, guys. No cannonballs today into the pool.
Yeah. The pool is expensive today too. I'm looking at the options chains, and it's not very cheap to play right now.
Yeah. This is when all the sellers are just like, here you go. They're putting their hands out. What do you want? I'll give it to you. If you want to take it, I'll give it to you. all the selling premium out there, they're just like, here you go. We'll give it to you. Do you want to take it? Do you think you know more than the market? Because I'm just going to sell it to you. That's exactly what's going on. The guys at Tasty Trade right now, they're all smiling. You can turn them on, I'm sure. I don't even need to turn them on to look. I know it.
It's like whenever somebody wins the lottery, really the lottery company won the lottery from taxes. Whoever trades today, they know the deal. They know the deal, man.
It
does look like, I'm not gonna lie, I did take a long there right off of the hourly trigger at 563.13. It looks like it's working, but I'm gonna be taking this off pretty soon, probably just because I don't trust anything these days.
Yeah, that's the hard part, right? Just trying to get the what I call the meat of the move, right? You don't need to get the whole thing, right? You just need to get a nice good chunk.
Right.
Where a lot of traders get it wrong. They think that they need to grab the whole thing. No, just grab a good chunk, man. Move on.
One of my favorite trading quotes is, I made my fortune selling early. Who cares? Who cares?
Yeah, who cares, bro? Who cares, really? That stuff's for the heroes, man.
Exactly. I catch the 80%. I don't need the 20 on either side. Everybody else can fight for that.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing a nice buildup on Qs here. It's reclaiming its hourly trigger, or at least testing it right here under 474. So we do have a little bit of outperformance in SPY, as we were noting earlier. IWM still looks like just beautiful. So I'm thinking if IWM keeps going up and we're seeing a bottom in the other two, then there's a good chance that we actually get a good move up here. That's kind of what my default stance is into Powell. Very likely the speech is going to be bullish. So we run it up into it, and then we'll see how the positioning shakes out, and if the market wants to get all panicky, which I think it very well could. So I'm planning on selling just about every long that I may pick up in the morning here by then.
Can't blame you, man. Can't blame you. I was looking around, trying to see what's going on out there. Definitely seeing some bounces NVVE is your penny stock right now on a halt. Looking at it as it just went towards 7 from 6 pretty much really quickly up there towards that 7. Doesn't have a bad chart this morning. You can see it on the 15-minute. Really nice, simple pattern, right? I think sometimes when you get these simple patterns, it's hard to find these in the penny game. So it's not a bad one to take a look at right now. It did do a nice little undercut strategy where you see these wicks, they're tricks down to 6. It looks like it's going to break down and it just reverses right back to the top end of the range. Now I'd be looking at pullbacks back towards this closing body. So you see how all the bodies close like towards the 650s? Maybe you can pull it up the tiniest bit on these bodies towards like 661. That's the levels that I'd be looking for quick pullbacks to. So right now you're at 7, right? Quick pullbacks is 660. Could be risk off like kind of 640. VWAP area is 639. We'll see what happens. We'll look what happens out the gates here with NVVE. Maybe we take a little small trade in one of these smaller kind of big runners. PRTG has been pulling back, faked out to the upside, now coming down towards the 1134. Little part of me wants to short that thing. I think it's actually halted on the downside now. But to tell you the truth, I mean, it's just risk on both sides. That's the truth.
Yeah. Speaking of pennies, I'm curious about your thoughts on LUNR here. Just had a crazy.
Lunar, I was looking at it earlier. The problem with this one earlier for me was that there was just no pattern on it. Like to me, like this 15-minute pattern, like what the hell is this?
Yeah, I'm staring at it right now, wondering if I should take profit. I got lucky and I was in it overnight. So
yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, what I would be looking at that, I'd look at the hourly and I'd want the trend line to hold here. So you can see here on like kind of a trend line hourly or the 9 EMA on the hourly. So holding 8 right now, it just undercut it there too. Seems like we just got close to 8 and undercut it. Yeah, so back through 8s would be my concern. You did get that undercut and rally type of trade, red off of 8 and then come right back up. So that's what I'd be looking at, that $8 spot to now hold on any pullback, because once you let go of that, you probably let go of the gains there.
Yeah, so that's where my head's at. I was white knuckling the past 5 minutes here while I was wicking down there, but I think that ideally it holds, and I can wait for an hourly close over that $8 level.
Yeah, and then now if you really wanted to look at it too, you could look at it on an hourly basis, and you can see how you kind of made a little bit of a pop back towards 860s. So on the upside, you've had now 1, 2, 3 attempts to get through that 860 and fail. So the next time that you go to that 860, I want to see a pop to 9. That could be also my sell signal. Hey, I've gone to 860 1, 2, 3, 4 times. It doesn't want to go. I got to get out and take the money. The way that I'll relate it to a trade earlier this week. I don't know if you guys remember, but my PDD trade where I was shorted, it wanted to break 84 once, twice, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. I was like, when the hell is it going to break it? No, there's something going on here that I can't see that I need to get out of, right? If your level doesn't want to break, it touches it once, twice, 6, 7, 8 times, guys. At some point, there's a ticking time bomb within yourself that should tell you, hey, maybe I just don't have it here. And it's better to cut there and keep the risk small than to say, oh no, but now I'm going to size up to expect that the move's going to happen. Not what happened. PDD ended up running like $6 after that. I only lost like 20 cents, but if I would have stayed in it, what would it have been? It would have been an account wrecking type of trade. So you always have to first think risk protection first, guys. There is NVVE. It opened up at 733s, now pulling back to 675s. So for me, 660s would be the only way to play this. And it would be like I would play it with like 100 shares. Wouldn't be anything crazy. Let's see if I can get it on the 660 pullback. All right, I put out there 100 shares right now, guys. It didn't touch it on the pullback. It got close. It hit 75s here. So looking to see if I can get it on the pullback towards 660s. VWAP is at 639, so the risk would be slightly below that to 630. So risking about $30 if I get in on this, but only going to get in at that 660 area, right? If I chop up and I just jump at 7, that's how I've been wrecked in the past, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But like always, you got to be careful there. Set your level that you want. And if it comes back and gets you, Same way on the stop side, right? Let it come get me.
We are seeing a bit of a roll here. Let's see if it wants to put in a higher low here or break the morning range.
I think
Breaks
what's
morning
fun,
range, might be going short.
yeah, I think what's fun here is looking at Tesla, because it's going to be two tails here, right? Either the Qs and the SPY just keep being weak here and then just keeps fading until maybe Powell comes on, or you get this quick recovery here in Tesla back through the 232s. So this gives me a nice little risk to return here on Tesla if I want to take a day trade off of maybe the 227s. And another thing that I saw here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times to try to go through that 227.30s. 6 times, right? If it doesn't go through there, there could be what? A big buyer just sitting there. He's like, come give me it. Come give me shares. I'm taking it. I'm taking it. I'm taking it. And then he throws the big size out there. Boom. It starts to rocket, right? And so I'd be looking for a nice, like, kind of engulfing pattern to the upside now. And you can do this on a bigger time frame too. So you see the 5, right? You need to see a bullish engulfing candle back towards 229s to give you that look that you're coming back.
Yeah, Tesla's interesting here. It rated the pre-market low side, sell side liquidity pretty ideally there. It just kept wicking down and popping right back up, like you were talking about. We do have this interesting box pattern. It's right under my hourly trigger at 228.50, and it's just cooking on both sides, right? So I think either way, you're going to see a nice move. It seems like it wants to try up at least first here, but we're seeing heaviness on indices here, looking to see if they can hold.
NVVE did not want to give it to me, guys. It got close. The order was sitting there. It went to 663. So missed it by 3 pennies there, guys. If not, I would be in it right now and looking for the pop above 7 towards 775s. So you went to 760s, right? 775s wouldn't be too bad. I'd be already up about $100 in the way that I'd look at it, right? I canceled the trade there because when trades get really close to me and don't fill me, I cancel. Because the next time you get a fill, you get run over. And the stock is 10 cents away, right? And so if it didn't fill me, it didn't fill me for a reason there. Let's be honest. It could be the reason that the algos thought that the shares weren't worth it and that the stock was coming back there. So at this point, I just stay out of it and I look for the reset up, right? So go below my entry now, go to like 650s, 640s, and come back through 660. Then I could maybe take the trade, right? Because I gave myself the potential downside, got through that, and then see that things come back. But we'll see what happens there on that NVVE.
Tesla's trying here. It's fighting for that level we were talking about.
Yeah, it just hit those bottoms too many times where it gave it the momentum try to come back here now. Now I'd be looking to see what happens in the Qs. Do you get that spike above VWAP? And you're getting a spike down test here. So you see how that rejection of VWAP there? This was coming back for that VWAP test and just rejected it here. So you're going to be stuck in a little bit of a range here. So let's see what happens when it comes back. If this candle can turn into a green candle back to 474s. That's why I say wicks are tricks. And why you got to be on a bigger time frame. That 1 minute seems like a really bearish look, but the 5 minute seems like what? Sideways consolidation here.
Boom, Tesla. There's a 230 real quick.
And if it was body closes towards 473.25s, I'd feel a little bit more bearish. You're seeing nothing but wicks down there. Remember, like I talk about it, guys. Wicks, majority of them are tricks, whichever side they're on, top or bottom. Right? They're wicks. They're expansions of the move where it collects volume, essentially. That's all it is. That's why you get caught on the penny stocks too, right? Because it takes the volume and then goes, right? It's like a rubber band effect, right? That's exactly the way I'd explain wicks. It's a rubber band and it stretches out, right? It grabs all that volume. And then what happens when you let go of the rubber band? It contracts back, right? And so that's exactly what these wicks are. That's why you also got to stay a little bit smaller than what you normally think your sizing is going to be. Sometimes I'll tell myself, I'll be like, hey, I want to go 1,000 shares. Then I'll only go 500 shares long. You know what I mean? What my mind says, I go and I take a little bit of that greed away. Same thing on the reward side. Let's say if I'm looking at the reward side and I'm like, oh, I want to get $10. And I'm long from 950. I'm getting up there towards that $10. Well, is there really going to be a difference between taking 998 or 997? Not really. Not really. So I'll rather just, if I tell myself 10's the reward target, once it gets to 995s, 996, I usually just take the money and run. I'm like,
totally.
Those is that 2 or 3 pennies, and being picky there never helps me.
Yeah, and when it kills you, it feels so bad.
Yeah, if you lose a profit take because you missed it by 1 or 2 pennies, trust me, we all get frustrated. I don't care who you are. You could be Warren Buffett and you'll be frustrated, man. So we'll see what happens here. There's the Qs right back up.
Yeah, I think
it's gonna be choppy
SPY
chop
wants to
trading
turn a
out
corner.
there. Look at Apple, man. Apple's a good leader today, guys. Good leader to see it turn around. And I think this is also just kind of fill the gap. Doesn't mean that Apple's, going for a big breakout, but it just gives it the opportunity. It's almost like it was just sitting there, right? It was just sitting there with the opportunity, right? And so that's what happened there. It just got picked off. Now Tesla right back up there, right towards that 232. But look at the wick that happens here. That's the one thing that you got to be careful with Tesla. Remember that she's a dragon, guys. She's a dragon. She doesn't make it easy. She pops here to 230. I would see a pullback to 229. That's the only way I'd go after for Tesla here. And then I could risk off the 228s, right? Because if it goes back to 228s, you could test that 227.50.
Yeah. Man, SPY, you gonna puke it? Kind of looks
Look at the VIXIE, man. 1255. Look at the daily chart now. It starts to look a little bit more like it wants to go back towards that trend line, right? Which is a 13 outlook. I mean, if it goes to 13, there's a lot of potential reward there. But I think what you're going to have today is top end of the range, bottom end of the range played. So right now, let's look at the Qs and see how it's looking on the hourly basis, right? So hourly basis, I'm going to actually erase lines because I want you to see or kind of focus on that. So sometimes we got to take new assessments, right? That's the way I think about it sometimes. So right now, what are we in? We're in a sideways. Let's put the rectangle here. Pattern is this, right? That's what we're pretty much seeing right now. And so this is an attempt to break from this resistance that we're now starting to chop around in. So I draw the kind of the trend line from that area towards these lines, and you can see how this could hold right around the 473 and then just make a move back towards like 476, 477 today. So I think we play within this range before the FOMC. And then of course, we'll see what happens if we break the 470s or 477. So at this point, we got the down action and it could come right back up towards like 476. So that's the way I see it right now. I'm looking for now move above the open and then eventually to see a move right back down too. So
yeah, this is pretty treacherous already, I gotta say. Just watching individual candles here, 1 minute's like a psycho, like a lot of pump fakes going on. Makes me pretty hesitant. But I mean, at the same time, what are we expecting on a day like today?
Yeah, there's one stock here that seems like it has more potential to recover on a fast move, which is NVIDIA. Look at the hourly on this.
Okay.
Do you see how that? Out. Yeah, nice building, right? We all know how the market's watching NVIDIA, and today you make a down attempt to make it look like you want to wash 115s. So I'm sure shorts that were like, NVIDIA's going back to $2. They're probably jumping on that 115 break, and now it's back to 115.75. So where did they get stomped on? They get stomped on back through 116. So I'd be looking for a nice spike through that 116 level once you get back to that, if the bulls really want to take it here. So we'll see what happens there. This is starting to climb back. Nice little kind of declining volume. And then when you got to that 115, you got increase of volume, telling me probably that the bears were taking a little bit more of that opportunity. Now I'm going to look for a nice little rise through that 116 on NVIDIA. Let's see if they take it there at that 116. Tesla right at that 229 level that I talked about, right on the VWAP, right? So you get your opportunity here off VWAP. Whether you want to take it or not, that's up to you guys out there, right? But I do think that you got the nice opportunity here. Let's see if I can get a slight move underneath that 229 here for Tesla. try to take it here, guys. Long. All right, guys, just grabbed a little bit there, guys. Grabbed the 228.90s, right? So now we just got to establish risk here and just keep it to it, right? So it's going to be the 228s. So we're talking about $46 of risk. Nothing crazy, guys. I told you guys, I dipped my toe. I ain't sticking my feet in the pool. All right, guys, this is like going to the jacuzzi in the winter months. It's a scary move when you first get in there and you first go out, but after you jump into and you get into that hot tub, it doesn't feel too bad. So let's see what happens here, guys. Let's see if we can get things going here. A move back up on the Qs through 470, 440s coming towards the open. Come on, Tesla. The dragon. The dragon needs to stop flying rockets at 3 a.m., but
Oh, what now?
SpaceX loves to shoot rockets at like 3 or 4 a.m. and I'm in my house, and my house is pretty close to it. So my like windows start shaking, the cups in the cabinet start clinging together. It's like, holy moly.
That's intense.
When the Starship goes up, I'd be surprised if my windows don't go out. All I know is that Tesla, you better be repairing my windows, man.
At the very least, you can subsidize it with some nice scalps here.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. You know,
there you go.
Trying to hedge it right here. All right, guys, we'll see if it takes the 229 and takes off here for Tesla. Just trying to take a simple trade here, nothing crazy. Maybe make $100. Up about 1,100. Really not trying to push it today, guys. I would rather push it on Thursday and Friday, right?
Yeah.
See what I can come up with then.
Tesla acting right though. I think seems like it's given a little giddy up.
It's the SPY. Sometimes so.
Oh, there we go.
Sometimes the SPY is leading. Sometimes the Qs are leading. This is something I look for, and a lot of that action is going to be more on kind of the strength that you're seeing in the drive. So that's what I'd be looking at now. So the Qs are more at the top end. So what I really pay attention to more in this market is always technology over everything, right? Because the SPY could always look really bad, but if technology goes green, we know how it rises tides, right? Apple goes up, Microsoft recovers, Tesla goes up, NVIDIA gets that bull flag through that 116. The market could be right back up here. So
this is interesting. We're seeing IWM puke the opening level. It did run that 220 level we were talking about pre-market, and then it's just knife party since then. That's interesting, because we are seeing flows coming into SPY and Qs. So that's money coming out of the small cap stuff. Where it gets hard is deciphering what this actually means.
What does it mean? What does it mean? Tell me, what does it mean, Steve?
Clearly something's happening, and that might be the best I can get you right here. I'm trying to piece it together.
Oh, I'm sure everybody out there, I'm almost wanting to see the streets. Let's see how the streets are talking. Let's see how Twitter's out there. See who's playing hero out there right now.
Oh, no, cooking on SPY a little bit. Still doesn't want to reclaim even the 1 minute trigger though with these impulse moves up. So tough. Cooking a little better.
All right, guys, I did get that downside attempt in Tesla. It kind of bounced there, but the Qs are just chopping around right now. We're in that kind of wait and see mode. A big stock that I'm watching is just NVIDIA to see if it takes that 116. You got close to that 116 and didn't take it there. So just keeping a close eye on NVIDIA. It's back at that 115.70s. It hit 115.95s, 115.94s. So let's see what happens here in NVIDIA.
Cautiously optimistic that this is a valid double bottom formation for this morning into the speech, but Qs, I'm not playing along yet.
This is all I got to look at. This is all I got to say. eBay. Izzy, you make that money. I told you. I got out of that yesterday. Today's the day it dumps.
There you go. There you go.
I'll tell you what, Izzy, I won't get in it so that you keep making your money.
Oh, look, we're testing the engulfer on the Tesla 1 minute. I know it's a psycho time frame, but
This is exactly what I was looking for just yesterday. The move back to 62 is what I can see here now on eBay. I wasn't saying that it was going back to like 50, but 62 made sense. It was just a little extended. And you can see when the stock gets away from what? The 9 EMA, how it comes back to the 9 EMA. So that's what it felt like to me. Good move though there, Izzy. Get that money. Take it. Don't worry. I won't touch it. I won't even look at it anymore. Trust me. It's going to make me feel bad. But you making that money makes me feel good. So, hey, that's what it is. I didn't give too much at least. I gave like 200 on the swing. We'll see what happens a little bit later, guys. Tesla just moving all around here now. Now we're going for that recovery. Can the Qs get back to open? If the Qs were near open, like right close to the opening price, I would add here on Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
So you see where it's at, right?
Batch.
You see where we're at right here. We're at the VWAP, but we're still slightly below it. The reason I don't add there is that you still have a bearish pattern there on the Qs, right? As much as I want to look at this bullish, there's still a bearish pattern there, right? Which is a rejection of this, like right here, this 474.27 area, and then a break of this trend line, which you clearly have right here, right? And so that's the one thing that you can't like sometimes overexpose until you get the movement, right? This is where I talk about the habit that I've been trying to build, right? Staying small, waiting till you see the momentum go in your direction and you're in the green, then you can step up to the plate with bigger size, right? And the big part of that is looking for like momentum pushes, right? Because we're always going to get momentum pushes and then a slowdown period like we're getting right now. The first momentum was downside. Then now we're getting this period, right, of consolidation. Then we're going to get another momentum move. You're trying to catch those momentum moves and time them with big sizing, essentially. That's what I've been trying to do lately. Same thing in the VIXIE, right? Get in slow. Then once I feel like momentum's heading in a direction and I can take a bigger bet as that momentum starts to pick up, then I take it, right? So essentially not trying to be big, heavily exposed until the market wants to move.
Seeing a nice pop on SVIX, giving me a little bit of hope, but
yeah,
man,
it's just choppy. It's just choppy, right? And you see the Qs come right back to the VWAP. This is why I also didn't just go in there and just be like, oh, long Tesla, 200 shares. I'm back to my VWAP. I need to go long and take a big trade. No, right now it's just kind of decipher and play it out. Now what I could do is take 230s and then add. That's another way to think about it, right? Now you're starting to push through the Tesla high day, the recent high, and then you can go look to see if you take out that other high, which is 231.75s. Qs are just chomping and still in a bearish pattern here, essentially. We can do the rule of 3 and the rule of 4 here and kind of play into that. So one thing you can look at is on the 5 minute here, right? So you can see how you're kind of just chomping around. You're making that attempt for the downside break right here. We'll see if we get it here or a wick, right? So that's what I'm looking for. Close through the 473.25s. That's the real breakdown here. You could still wick here and recover 474. So I'll show you guys that in just a second here. I'm going to draw out like the circle test on each thing here. So you can see that's that first downside. Then you get an upside move. Then you get what? Just look for the downside trend. So this whole thing here is that downside trend touch here. Then you're going to move back to the upside. Then you're right back up here, right? Now you're getting the move right back to the downside, right? And so what you want to be looking is how does this play out, right? So down 1, up 1, down 2, up 2, down 3, up 3. Back through this high here, 474, it breaks the bearish pattern. Close below 473.75 now. And on a new candle, because you need a new 5 minute candle to do that one, and then it's the breakdown through the 473.50 here. So that's what I look at all the time when I'm looking at flag patterns, pennant patterns. I'm just looking at the resistance touches, the support touches, collecting there, and then looking to see when do we get a close that goes above or below the range here, right? So that's what I'll be watching. And you can play this on both sides, right? I could be longing against the reversal pattern here. So it's a bearish pattern, and I could be longing off the bottom, looking for it to break the top resistance and squeeze the shorts. Or I can be joining the shorts and shorting probably above the VWAP towards breakdowns towards the 473.50. Or momentum traders. They're trading the momentum breakdown here through the 473.50s or the momentum breakout through the 474.50s, right? And so things like that you can be thinking about to take trades off of. A lot of the times what I use this rule is more to give myself the ability to build a position and then not wanting to take the position all in one size. It's where I see a lot of traders get wrong is on that first action, they're just big short off that 474. It's okay, but then you got to wait all throughout this whole time to get your money versus, let's say, taking 100 shares there, then 100 shares back at the 474.18s or 20s, 100 shares back at the 474.18s. Then you're building it through there and looking for the levels to really kind of break down. And a lot of the times what I would say is looking for that last swing, the fourth swing, to then going full size, right? Because then you can hold. Like, let's say if I was bearish right now at 474 original entry, now I'm getting the breakdown towards the 473.50s. I could have added at 473.75 and then holding off 474, right? Things like that, right? So we'll see what happens here, guys. A lot of action out there. When's the speech again? Okay, so the way that it works, right? Okay, so the FOMC will be releasing a press release at 2 p.m. The press release is a PDF. Trust me, the algos are faster in a day in AI. They are faster. So I wouldn't try to trade necessarily off of that, but you can use AI yourself to distinguish what's in the press release and what's important. So that's what I would give you guys out there. So as soon as that press release is out, copy and paste it into your Chat GPT, into your Claude, and tell it to give you a high-level summary. Then it's going to give you the summary of what happened on there. Then you could even ask itself, in a rate cutting environment, how would this make sense? It'll go and tell you that, right? Help you out. This is all what CNBC talks about for 20, 30 minutes. You can figure this out in 5. And then you can start to make decisions as the conference goes on. Because the conference is really where the fireworks start, guys. That's when we can catch Jerome Powell. Because what does he do at the first beginning of the conference? He reads that PDF that they put out there. He literally reads it word for word. He looks down and reads it, right? Then he gets questions. Questions and answers are when we get the firework reaction a lot of the time, where he can give you the statement of, yeah, it's 25, but the rate cutting cycle is just getting started. And we're going to be watching like a hawk that unemployment number to see if we need to go 50 on the next one, or maybe even 75. I always
For
love
an
the
even
go ahead,
really
go ahead.
quick, just for an even quicker cheat sheet, just Control F. I think we'll figure out what the most important words are, but I figure inflation and recession. If either of those appear, then we're in trouble. And,
Hey, that R word appears. Yeah,
no R word. Yeah, that's no good. So yeah, that's what I'll be looking for. Just because my brain doesn't work that fast, so I take all the help I can get.
Yep. And there's one name that's still going against the market here. It's Apple. I can see the gap filling there. Here's the temp breakdown in the Qs. There it goes, guys, towards the 422s level. Now watch to see if wicks are tricks here, right? If we just get a wick here, it could be a trick, but there it goes. There goes my position. You guys saw it on the bottom left. There it goes, $47 down on Tesla. As Tesla goes back down through the 228s, I'll tell you one thing, not hanging out in it there. And it just goes to show me, right? It's just not the day, guys. I'll tell you one thing. Even this already, I'm like, man, you just gave $50 just to give it. So at this point, it's just sit on the sideline for me, right? On a day like today, Yeah, there's a lot of things that are going to be looking like they're looking great, but it's a lot of action that's going to be choppy. We could even reverse off of this, and right, you see how you're getting that big wick. If you get a wick back through the open of this candle, which is 473.57, it's also going to be looking like a little bit of a trick, right? This is how it goes through those levels and stops people, right?
IWM maybe engulfing here.
Yeah, this actually doesn't look too bad on a swing.
It doesn't. Yeah.
This is the type that I'd like on a swing, because you touch that 219. Now you could get it at 219.50s and just risk off that 219, right? Yeah. It's simple. It's a simple trade, and it's not a bad trade looking into what's going to happen today, right? Which is a rate cut, right? So if there's any trade that I could see maybe, let's say, big money behind, it's this one right here. Not the SPY to the upside here to the end of the year. Not the Qs to the upside for the end of the year. It's small caps as rate cuts come in and they start to get a little bit of a lift. Just simple play sometimes.
It'll be super interesting to see how IWM reacts for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced either way here. So right now we had the big flush. We had a big wick up, but it couldn't claim engulfing on any of the indices. So still got to be biased downside, but I'm so ready for a big snap up. Like that seems like it would make the most sense going into the meeting.
APLT guys, that was at like 7 earlier, now going towards 830s. But that NVVE came down nasty. It's back down to 6, was up there to 750s. We'll see if it catches the support here at 570s and goes back up. But hey, that's how it is today, guys.
That's why you take that order out, right?
Yep. That's why you take it out, man. I would have got run over with that order. Here comes LUNR. You did get some wicks down to that 780s, a couple of wicks down there. Now coming back through 8. We'll see if it makes a move or not, man. These are tough, man.
You noticed I was a little quiet there towards the end of the hour.
I'm sure you were feeling the pressure on that one.
I was clenching a little bit, but I got a nice cushion now, and I already took some off after hours yesterday. So
that's all you can do sometimes, guys. Pay yourself, take the stress off, guys.
That looks like a potential juice candle if this gets extension through here. But that was a strong catch on SPY.
Look at that Tesla wick down there. Caught me. You know how the Tesla wicks go. Look at that Tesla wick. I think I had 96. Yeah, look. 227.96. Look where I got stopped out, guys. 227.96.
Oh, they got you. They took your lunch money.
They got you. That market maker said, hold on. Gotcha.
I'll take that.
I'll take that. Thank you. Come again.
It's brutal, right? It's brutal.
Thank you. Come again.
It looks like we're going here. Looks like we're going here.
Come again, guys. I'll take it. Tesla coming back here. And look at the Qs wick. Look at that wick there on the Qs, on the 5.
Mean.
Man, look at that wick. Look where it closes. It closes green on that candle.
Gnarly, dude. Gnarly. Yeah, we're testing hourly triggers on SPY and Qs. Big pivot.
This is why you'll see a lot of people sometimes go against technical analysis, because they're like, yeah, when it was going down to that 473, you were telling me this was the biggest bearish looking bar. But now it's going back up. It just goes to show you that you got to be smaller sometimes to give yourself room throughout these wicks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're too big there and you're just feeling like the whole world is coming to an end, you're just too big. That's just simply as that, right? And so you need to kind of downsize so that you can handle moves like that and not feel like the world is falling, right?
Right. Absolutely. I mean, look, we just rejected the hourly trigger here. It's just ping pong.
Yeah,
if I was oversized, man, I would not be feeling good.
And this is also how you just give up money back and forth. You're just like, ding, 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 ding. I'm long, I'm short, I'm long, I'm short, I'm long, I'm short.
chop you out. And you got to think like, man, they are feasting on the commission side of these kinds of days. You know, it really does show you days like today where the movement's kind of hypercharged. It really shows you how a range is set and then a range is swept to extract the most amount of money in that range. Don't be getting extracted on.
Yeah, there's a quote that I always try to remember, and I always try to think about it. And I even think about it in the mornings every day, guys. And I think it's one that you could ask yourself, maybe put a little sticky note, is where's the max pain trade? Where is the market loves to hurt where it can hurt the most?
Mm-hmm. Ain't that the truth?
So thinking about that, you have to weigh it in sometimes. Is the most bullish? Is the most bearish? The market loves to hurt where it can hurt the most. It's just what it is, man. If it's not trending, we're going to be in pain, and that's 100% true. What happens there?
Great.
The bulls get run over, and the bears get swept also. And even worse, the pigs just give up the money. So everybody loses. The pigs, the bears, and the bulls. The truth is, those are the only three traders that I know. And some traders will be like, what? The pig? Yeah, there's pigs out there. Trust me.
Oh, yeah. I started out as a little piggy, just always pushing the edges. And then I learned it's better to take the base hits.
Yeah, man. The piggy game is it's tough. And I sometimes catch myself as the piggy. What I always look at the charts is that if I'm stuck in the middle of the pattern, I was a pig.
Yep,
I was an oinky.
You got greedy. You saw it on one end or the other and said, nah, let's let it ride. We're going.
Yeah,
baby.
it happens. It happens, traders. Trust me.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want to be a piggy. Pigs get slaughtered. They say it all the time.
That's that's one of those rare broken clocks twice a day moment for Kramer where he's dead on. You know, that's a great Kramer quote.
Yeah, man. It's the truth, man. You want to be a bull or a bear here. Here's the Qs and the SPY trying to break down, and the fun part, Apple up, right? So things like that is what makes me feel like, it's still chop, right? Because they would wash them all out, right? There's no reason not to wash Apple on the pattern that it had. It had a really nice bearish pattern this morning, and they just brought it. Why? Rotation.
Yeah, exactly.
This is just rotation. This is rotation, right? Taking money away from NVIDIA, taking money away from Microsoft, and then bringing it back to Apple, right? And so always
they're kind of holding the line, so to speak.
Exactly. Holding the line, exactly. So the market's like, how do we stay up here? Well, we buy Apple. We buy Apple and we stay up here. So
into the lifeboats, the classic lifeboat.
And that's why I was also watching to see what would happen in the defensive stocks out the gates. That's why I felt like what we could play there was maybe like a quick move in the defensive names like XLP and things like that. And you can see how it's going up here. At some point later in the day, I think that this could come crashing down. But the truth is that I think that this could be like kind of the run until the FOMC, right? So you kind of put a little bit of fear in the market before Jerome's going to come on and sound dovish, right? The market loves to hurt where it can hurt the most, right? If people were thinking about that line this morning, they probably would think that the truth is that we went from extreme bearish to now you're starting to see a lot of traders start to go back towards extreme bullish, right? Then they're like, oh, but rate cuts are here. Now everything's better. That's not the truth either, man. That's not the truth, man. And the market's known about this rate cut from how long?
Right. How much is priced in? Which aspects are priced in? What's going to be the surprise curveball that changes that equation? You know, that's kind of how I'm looking at this.
Yeah, I think that's 1000% the way you look at it. And that's what's more important here, and definitely priced in. The market has a tendency of pricing in either, I look at it usually 3 or 6 months out. It's not going to be a year out because no one knows what's a year out, right? Like that's just the truth. But sometimes it's safe. Sometimes it's within the quarter. Sometimes it's like looking 2 quarters out. I think in this case, The market is going to at some point think very short term. That's why we got bearish. That's why we started seeing the downside. We started seeing consumer focus, right, of recession and things like that, and we will get a slowdown at some point. But then what I also feel like will come into play is that, well, lower rates means that these tech companies can invest more, and then you start to think about, like, growth opportunities there in the long run, and that's exactly what they'll use, right? They'll
that
switch
Qs
the
will
narrative.
lead the next sector up as money comes out of financials, utilities, defensive stuff.
Exactly.
Freaking Philip Morris and Altria. Have you seen those crazy moves?
Yeah, man.
Holy moly!
It's crazy,
Thought those
right?
were slow. What happened there?
I thought people don't smoke cigarettes anymore.
No, brother, they're smoking something or other nowadays. There's one thing you can count on is when times are tough, people will drink and smoke. They'll find a way to feel okay.
Yeah, and this was the trade that was since we've been looking at the rate cut situation.
Yep, 100%.
Think about it.
So that's the front run that we're kind of seeing, and that's why I'm getting kind of 1 foot out the door on a lot of these. I'm at Altria. I took a little bit of an early exit, like we talked about. No hard feelings there. But
nothing wrong with that, man. And I think that that's the important thing, guys. You can jump on this, and you can also look at prior trends, right? How is this trading like before the financial crisis, right? It was leading up, and then it was a downside move. And then once you got into that real bearish market, it's just continued to climb and climb and climb, right? And so we'll see what happens to this space out there. And seeing the Qs just chop around, starting to get that slowdown move, and you start to get like double bottoms now. And so that's where you just get more trade opportunities. And that's why I always tell you guys that if you don't get this opportunity, don't get too mad, guys. Guess what? There'll be thousands of opportunities tomorrow.
Better ones, honestly.
Yeah. And ones that could probably keep going, right? Because then you don't have to worry so much of headline risk, right? There's always headline risk with any company, with any stock. On days like today, it's bigger headline risk.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's what you always got to be weighing into your trades. And I always talk about it, how there's variables in trading. And one of the variables is just the overall market. Certain times the overall market leads, and it doesn't matter what your stock is. It doesn't matter what the fundamentals are. It doesn't matter what the technicals are. It doesn't matter who the CEO is. It only matters what the market does, right? And then so this situation is just like that. So when there's heightened times like that, I think what you start to look at is, longer term swing opportunities. Those can really be rewarding at times like this, because you're able to keep a risk in a smaller way and then look for long kind of reversals, right? Things like that. Like let's say XLF is one of those that I could think about on the swing trade side of things. That's why I would like to bet to the downside, because this thing is juicy. for the year up so much, right? And I think that that's what I'd look at, right? I'm like, so from 2024, you're up like 20%. There's not too many times XLF finishes a year up 20%. Let's have some fun, guys. I can do this. Let's go ahead. Let me go ahead and pull up here my TC 2000, and we'll have a little bit of fun. We'll take a look at some of that action. We don't do this all the time, but I'm not trading too much today, so we might as well look at it. Look, sector by year, guys. I have it right here.
Oh, that's nifty.
So let's go ahead. Let's take a look at this, right? And I think this is interesting to take a look at, right? We can talk about financial services, right? How often does it end up more than like kind of 20, 30% here? You see very few. There's some in the 20% that has closed. And recently we've gotten in 2023, 17%. Right now for the year, it has it at like 19 in the overall, because this is an equally weighted outlook, not XLF. XLF is always heavily weighted in the top names, right? That's why I look at an equally weighted basis. And I think that that's very important. And you start to look at what is leading the year and what could start to change, right? What is not going to be leading the year at the end of the year, right? And so healthcare is leading, utilities, cyclicals, financial services. Technology is actually only up like 18, right? In an equally weighted basis, it's 18. It's not really at the top. And I sometimes look at what's also on the downside to see if maybe that turns, right? So basic materials, we have been seeing them start to get hotter. Energy start to get hotter. And what is this really a bet on? More kind of mean reversion, right? As things get extended away, they come back and don't seem as sexy. So we'll see what happens here with healthcare, utilities, and the financial services. I could see them coming down at least half of that, maybe ending up the year about like 10%, but we'll see what happens here with these. Technology had the year of all years in 2023, right? Up 51%. That was on an equally weighted basis. So you could just imagine looking into more kind of like your kind of technology, XLK, right? And so that's why I always try to focus also on like equally weighted versus kind of weighted outlooks, because those can really kind of distract you and where the strength is. And it also tells you where you should be having your money, right? If I think about this in technology, 43% of it, and then 40% of the semiconductors. So 80% has come from communication equipment and semiconductors. Should I have a whole bunch of money in, let's say, solar names? Hell no. Healthcare information names? Hell no. Contract manufacturers? Hell no. Software names? Hell no. Semiconductor equipments? No. It's going to be more in your communication equipment, more in your semiconductors and your computer systems. And your computer system was Dell, right? And you guys have seen how Dell has performed on the year. This is an activity that you guys can always look into, guys. Always look into this, right? It can give you a really good insight. And another thing will be at the end of the year, and I always do this at the end of the year, is looking at what was the worst area in the last year that could become the best area in the next year. So look at technology, down 36 in 2022, back to 51 the following one, right? It was the worst one. It became the best one. Worst one, best one. Look for those kinds of swings. That's what a lot of long-term investors look for. And they look at what was up really big, could be down really big the next year, right? Those are all things to think about, guys. And then you can go even further into industries and certain stocks. Like here, I got like returns of stocks, right? Like throughout the whole year. It's also important to take a look at that stuff. But always work backwards. Sectors to industries to stocks, not the other way around, is what you see a lot out there. Look at the Qs coming back. I said, you know what? You know what? You know what? Hey, I think we got enough bears out of here. We're ready to go after it. And the VIXIE coming down now. VIXIE coming down. This actually looks like a good scalp opportunity maybe for the VIXIE, because I could see it coming towards like 1220s, but it's only 20 cents on the downside. Maybe could do a risk off of 1250s here. So 10 cents risk off 1250 VWAP for a move back down towards the 1220s, maybe 22 cents on the plus side of that. But there's not much action today, guys. And it's going to be one of those days where if I push it, I can easily just give back part of that 1100 that I did yesterday. And you guys see me doing no risk today. $50 when we got 1100 yesterday. That's going to be nothing. Just got to stick around and hang out, guys, because the truth is, pushing on a day like today is just recipe for disasters. NNE down big. That's a good thing to see, guys, because I wanted to catch this again.
Back testing.
Yeah.
I've been keeping an eye on these names. Yeah.
I think SMR, NNE, I want a piece of them, man. I missed already the first run in NNE. That was so frustrating. I still remember I was down and I got stopped out at 850s. And it was right down here on this day. So I mean, I could have got a nice little piece, 90%.
Crazy moves
there, right? So I mean, 90% on anything is going to be always really nice. The big thing for me on this one is you got to catch it on like kind of a weekly turnaround. So now that it's come back, I'd look at this weekly level here to see if it holds there. So that's where I'd be watching to join in on the party. So closer towards 10, right? Give me an undercut towards 10 again. Then I can risk on this bottom action, see if it starts to work back. But this will also depend on the presidency. So if Trump wins, I see NNE and SMR up big. If Harris wins, I do not see these getting the lift. So that's Trump where it's very hard.
Is Trump pro-nuclear?
Yeah, he's starting to get pro-nuclear. He's trying to jump on
Okay.
that stance of smaller nuclear reactors being something that he can push for. If anything, take regulation away from. So if he could take that away from it, you would see all the crypto players, you would see all the AI players all start to try to use their own smaller nuclear reactors, which
Right.
is within itself a little dangerous, but the truth is, hey, money's to be made. I don't care about that. I'm no scientist. I'm not going to worry about what happens there. Hopefully my kids won't get radiation, but
I'm definitely no scientist either, but I think that most of it seems like primarily many of the bearish arguments for nuclear are emotional as opposed to logical, in terms of it does solve so
100%.
many problems, So I think it's a fascinating sector. I'm super bullish in the couple years, horizon.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah, I didn't realize.
what can you do? You look at the underlining asset, and the professor always taught me that, right? Is that don't
Right.
think about things so when you start thinking about a theme, right? Find the underlining asset. What needs to change in value for this move to happen, right? So what would need to change in value? The price of uranium, right? That's what needs to change first, and then this move can really happen, right? We're early to the trade, early to the thinking, right? And the theme, right? And so depends on how you want to bet there. If you're trying to be early to something or late, right? In this case, I would think you'd be part of the early adopters in this game, right? Smaller nuclear reactors. And then you got to see what you do, right? I would split money between NNE and SMR because that gives me at least 2 horses versus just 1 horse in the battle, right?
Yeah, I chose my my steed SMR last time, and I definitely underperformed NNE, so I think that would be a prudent decision. I also avoided some of that massive downside when NNE started rolling at first.
Yeah, it was a quick roll up there. I always remember when it was trading.
I caught SMR really clean, 10 to 15, and then just said, that was my target, I'm out. And then it puked its guts from there, if I recall. So
yeah, what gave me the sign to go for it here on that day was it was just a day right after Oracle had reported. And what did Oracle say in their report? They said what?
Nuclear. They said that they're leaning more on reactors, if I recall.
I caught that immediately, and I was like, the good traders will catch that. They're not going to be worried too much about the BS guidance that Oracle gave you. They're going to focus on that small comment there because it didn't need to be in there.
Exactly. So you got to think about everything very like if it's in there, it was chosen very specifically, and lawyers vetted it, and there's implications behind it, So yeah, there's no just free words. Maybe in the calls it gets a little looser, but even then, I think they're pretty much on rails on scripts.
Yeah. Pretty
so
on
totally
script on that, and that was the catch that told me like, oh well, I know someone else is gonna see this, not just me. Someone's going to react on that or action. They're not going to think about Oracle in the sense of Oracle. They're going to think about it, maybe this nuclear energy thing is real. So stocks that we can look at on there, right? I know CCJ is one of those names. I see mentions in the chat of UEC, right? There's so many
UEC.
names.
I have a pretty good handle on the sector. So UEC is going to be a great high beta small cap one. It's really risky compared to some of the other ones. But it's a great place to kind of push the leverage on these companies. In a similar way to NNE, which I would argue that the reactors are even more so high beta. CCJ is kind of your blue chip, and you got URA, which is going to track the closest to spot uranium. SRUUF is another option. That one I believe is just
Which one was that one? SRUUF,
I believe.
Oh, I got it. Sprouts Physical.
So,
this is a kind of it tracks it, right?
Yes. In this, I believe they
got some
as long as uranium is over a certain price, they will be buying a ton and basically driving spot up because it's such a limited supply market. So it's a really fun play in that regard. What are some other fun ones? LEU, that's a nice one. Very well run company from what I recall. Those are my usual go-tos. Yeah, the real tight charts, right? Like they're setting up.
And one thing I want the beginner traders to notice is that as we talk about this theme here, right? What am I doing? I'm looking at monthly charts, not dailies, not weeklies. I'm looking at monthlies because if I want to be investing in themes and being an investor mindset, I need to be in monthly charts, not daily and not even weekly charts. I said it again, guys, your monthly charts for investors out there. Investors, right? We're not talking about trading. We're talking about taking a position that you're looking at months, quarters, years out, right? And so things like that, you want to be using the deeper time frames. Even you can go to what I call the yearly pattern, right? And there is such thing as a yearly pattern.
Oh yeah. Quarterly candles also great.
Yeah, quarterly is also
nice
too.
to see.
Quarterly is a fun one because it tells you when the quarters have a tendency of doing well, right? So this has a tendency of doing well when, right? And we want to notice that. Well, it has a tendency of doing well in the later half of the year.
Well, this is another great point. Seasonality too, right?
Yep. Seasonality comes into play and you can clearly see it on the charts there, right? The same way that I've mentioned also on solar, how solar has a tendency of running in September and October. Look at the monthly charts. Look at those charts, guys. They're going to give you signs, right? From 6 to 9, what happens here? A nice little spike, right? Let's look at it from 6 to 9. You're still getting the spike. Those are red, but there's still moves back up. So seasonality, you got to be looking for things like this. They're going to give you nice little insights, nice little tips ahead of time. That's why I'm also taking a look at the lithium battle, right? At some point, these got to be some kind of buys, right? Or at least bets to the upside, right? Not just to the downside, right? And so like LAC, I know that in right down the street in North Carolina.
Cool.
In North Carolina, they have a lot of things out there, right? There's a lot of these things that I would definitely take a look at, right? And there's bets to be placed. I talked about ALB and SQM. Those seem to me like interesting bets for the long term, right?
SQM is a good company too. They've just gotten beaten down. But if you look at the monthly there, I mean, it's basically a breakout back test, even though it looks kind of crazy. You know, I mean, big picture.
Big picture. I can get it on this bottom trend line, risk maybe $7-10 that could potentially get this thing back. And it doesn't have to go all the way to the top, guys.
No,
it doesn't need to go back to 115. Let's say I get half of that move.
Yeah,
that's
the classic
41 points, 105% for risking, let's say even 10 points, right? 10 points. You start to risk there and you're risking about 18%, 20% on the downside action just from where you are right now, right? But the action back up could be 100% win and you could be doubling your money, right? And so this is the way I look at it and I think about things ahead of time, right? If there's going to be the EV wave, the first wave that has to happen is the rise of lithium and the actual like pulling of lithium out of the ground to give it to these guys that are going to build solid state batteries to then see the wave of the EV wave actually come in. That's why I was more kind of bearish towards EVs at the beginning part of the year, even bearish Tesla at the beginning part of the year. A big part of that is just it becomes a margin battle until then. Until lithium is just like being dug out, like if it's gold, it's going to be a battle of margins. And the battles of margins, I'll tell you right now, it's never fun. It's not sexy.
No doubt. It doesn't bring in the crowds, but it's important. It's very important.
Very important, guys. Q's coming right back up. There you go.
Yeah, just ping-ponging, huh? I still think we need a real flush to get a big move up, but maybe I'm just wrong. Maybe this is just like one of those U-turn days. Because, I mean, it's been a series of higher lows on the, 5 minute or whatever.
Look what's about to fill the gap soon and really close to it.
How about that? It just works.
It just works sometimes, guys. Don't make it complicated sometimes, right? If there was one play that seemed to me like it was just simple, and it was more based on yesterday's action, that it didn't want to go through the level.
Mhm.
It had all the potential to go through 215 and just start collapsing on Apple, but something wanted to keep it up there. And I know that everybody got scared of the iPhone mentions, but there's one positive mention on iPhones, and we're back to 226.
Let's go.
So
Yeah,
I think the fill the gap here play that was pretty 221.91. We're at 221.43s, and it was still a nice risk to return, right? Maybe you're risking about $1, even $2 down here for a move that starts to go from 217 to 221. That's pretty nice return there.
I mean, hey, even if you call it $3 at the bottom of yesterday, like still the RR is there. It's a really nice candle that you pointed out yesterday. Really good setup.
And the big part of it was I was looking at it yesterday as a good indicator because it had everything to go lower. A catalyst, a negative catalyst, action on the hourly, rejecting the resistance. Then as when the VIX came down there, and I was looking to see if we would get that the pop into the 70s, right? Yesterday when it was on the VIX was coming on the VIXIE, I saw this reverse. That gave me a sign. Okay, Apple doesn't want to go. The Qs are hanging on the low. It's probably not going to break. That's why I was looking also on Microsoft yesterday as it started to come back. And I was like, well, Microsoft is a name that needs to fill the gap first. And that's what it did today. It filled the gap.
Yeah. No doubt. Yeah, and I don't know how much you've talked about this on stream, but in terms of the why gaps fill, I find that really interesting in terms of like, I always think of it like when you're painting a house with a roller, you got to go both directions to really fill in all the gaps. If there's
that's a good way to think about it, man. I've never thought about it like that.
Well, it just makes sense to me because the tape just really wants to be filled. All those gaps, they would really love to fill as many orders as possible. And when they see them sitting on the books there, it's just a really easy target that they can shoot for. And speaking of shooting for it, look at the indices here.
Yeah, they're shooting for it. Tesla's right back up there, guys. Definitely got hunted on that recent candle, but PRTG now to 17. Day trade Tony coming in here and saying, "Look at that monster." Well, yeah, this was an absolute monster, guys. But the truth is just on a day like today, I don't want anything to do with this name. But hey, that's just how it goes, guys. It did get the lift. It got into a halt, and it's actually not halted since then, which is a good thing, right? Because it's giving you the ability to get in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. We'll see what happens on this PRTG up there to $17, almost the pre-market high. At some point, this could be a nice little turnaround attempt. One thing to mention is this stock has what a lot of the recent small caps that have been making moves has, which is a recent split, right? So just be careful with those types of names. We all know how splits are. They're just to make things look more attractive, whether it be split down or split up. Whichever way, it's still just to make it look more attractive. All right, we'll see what happens in other names. I'm still looking around to see what's up out there. XLF, taking a look at the financials. Those are still kind of red, right? And still haven't come back to the top end of the range. So showing you more and more how we could get the decline in that space today. Goldman Sachs could see the downside action. JPM could see the downside action. And a good sign is starting to see that JPM decline because it didn't just come right back up to where it was at the 225 spot. It's held down, gotten small bounces. And I think at this point, you're starting to see some profit taken probably in this space. We'll see what happens there. Tesla is still trying to make the rip, could make a rip here. Q's going back and forth. Microsoft starting to bounce back. It seems like it's going to be a choppy, chop type of day, guys. We're actually going to start wrapping it up a little early here. I could kind of hold on to 11, but really not much I'm going to do, guys. I can make a big bet on the VIXIE for the swing trade. That's one thing I'm still considering. But the problem that's going to happen here is this, guys. I'll tell you guys what would happen. So I would take the swing trade here, right? Let's say, even if I take it with 100 shares, doesn't really matter what the share size is. But what's going to happen? When that first reaction comes out on the PDF, right? I'm going to get a big wick. Doesn't matter what I want to think about or not. Guess what? The wick's going to happen. So if I place a stop, I'm going to get hit. I'll repeat that. If I place a stop, I'm going to get hit. For all those traders out there that think that they're not, the truth is you're showing your hand. And in a moment like this, you can't show your hand. You kind of have to be in the weeds, in the black, in the dark, in the cave, whatever you want to do, and the dark pools, really. That's where the trades are made, really, on a day like today, because they don't want to show their hands, right? They don't want algorithms to see what they're doing. They don't want the payment for order flow to see what they're doing, right? And so that's why I don't want to put the swing out there, because I know what's going to happen. I'm just going to get triggered out on that stop. And even if it goes in my direction, I'll probably see it and think that I'm in the green. When I look at my account, I got stopped out. And I'm like, man, what happened there, Mitch? What happened? Scratching your head. You're just there looking at your screen like, what was that, man? I thought I had it there. Well, no, you set the stop. And the stop itself got triggered, right? Because of the way that it works. The way that it works is that essentially the market makers are allowed to go wide at that point, right? And they can spread out, right? So they're going to spread out. And then the algorithms start to take a look at it. The computers see how much volume is down here, how much volume is up here, right? Can we go and scoop that volume and then bring it up to the top volume, take both of those volumes, and then make the move? So don't get caught in that game, guys. The truth is that you're getting caught in that game. And that's why it's hard to even be on a swing trade. Like, that's why in the swing trade account, and I'll show you guys it, right? I'll switch over to the swing account. Do you see any position opened? There's not a single one. For swing traders, a day like today, it's not fun to swing trade. You could have like a perfect position. Let's say like I had in whatever. It could have been Palantir. I was super long Palantir, have a big gain. And today it could come all crashing down. Big part is the market can go against me, right? So as swing traders, normally on moments like this, they go back to a neutral side, right? You want to be neutral. You don't want to be in positions. You want to wait to see what happens and then react. The same way that I feel like sometimes when you get rotation against you, it's okay to cut all positions, even the green ones, right? Yep. Because when the rotation comes against you, man, I've seen it countless times. It'll take your money. So you got to be able to handle things like that. Swing trading's too scary for you, future day trade. Well, trade with 10 shares. You'll be all right, big dog. I'll tell you the truth, man. And I think that that's where a lot of traders take a look at it, right? And it's just all about, when you're swing trading, stay objective. That's what swing trading will give you an ability to do. It'll take some of that emotion away from you. And if you're feeling like it's too scary for you, probably you're still too big. So like, I think about it in day trading size to swing trading size, it should be closer towards a 10th, if not maybe even a 20th of that sizing. So 100 shares turns into what? 10 shares, right? It's completely different. When you're in a 100 share or a 10 share position, I mean, a dollar moves and you're like, okay, well, there goes my lunch money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So find their ways around volatility on days like today, guys. Identify trading gaps for opportunities. Today was all about identifying opportunities there. Apple was one of the best gaps today to get after for an opportunity where you had a level and price action yesterday that told you to get after this name. Really nice move there in Apple. We'll look to see if it kind of makes that continuation. It got to 221.61. The full close of the gap towards 221.91s, but it's already made a pretty nice move. Qs are going to play a little chop now. Looks like they're starting to slow down a little bit, and we're still stuck in that hourly range that I talked about earlier. Today, I'll go to this to show you guys that, how we're just essentially playing within that, right? And if anything, not going anywhere, guys. The opening price was, and I'll take a look really quickly to give you the exact, right? Opening price 474.73s. We just got towards 474.57. So we're just going to stick within this range right now until the FOMC. Right there, I'm just staying on the sideline. VIXIE could take off at some point and we could get some downside action, but there's nothing for me to chase today. It's all on the sidelines. I think Steve and I did it well today. We looked at some trades. We looked at the market. Doesn't mean that we need to go and take 30, 40 tickets on a day like today. All right. Any last words of wisdom before we get out of here, Steve?
Size small. Don't be a hero. Survive for next FOMC there.
Yeah.
That's what I'd say.
Yeah. Be careful with the big bad wolf. Jerome Powell. That's what I would say, right, guys? He likes to blow the houses down. It seems like the houses are now made out of bricks, so we might be all right. It's not the paper market anymore. But we all saw how recently we went into that really quick uncertainty, SPY moving 10 points kind of day, right? Well, let's take it easy, guys. Let's try to see what happens here. Then we can worry about the rest of the year. Then we can worry about it, right? But right now, it's event day. Be careful out there, guys. Beginner trading brought you over here. Well, I'm glad. that happened, right? We had beginner trades on yesterday. We took a look at different action there. He trades some future actions now. Of course, I'm more into the common stock, but it's good to see some new faces out there. Smash the like, guys. We'll be back tomorrow morning, 8:30. It's always good to have some new traders on here. So thank you, Steve, for joining me. And you guys out there, if you guys are ever looking to join the show, reach out to us, guys. The door is open to you guys. We'll keep kind of expanding here and bringing on some new traders. We'll see you guys back tomorrow morning. Smash a like. Stay safe out there, traders. And don't forget, 2 p.m. press release, PDF that everyone gets immediately. 2:30 is when the fireworks start. Watch that conference. Try to pay attention to how the market reacts on that. And like always, sometimes it's better to watch than trade. Today was one of those days. We'll see you guys back tomorrow.